Hello, welcome back to the Football Terrace. It's a top six show. Hit like button, subscribe. Make sure the bell notification is turned on as well. I hope everybody's good. We've got a brilliant panel for you today. Igal's with us. Dan is in the house. Henry Talks Footy Boys here. And David is with... Do you know what I watched yesterday, David? I watched the last two episodes of Supercell. And I couldn't help but laugh when that bloke talked. Yeah. I just remembered you. I was like, I'm actually ripped into him in Germany. But welcome, people. Loads to talk about today as we look ahead of the big game tonight between the Tottenham and Liverpool. We're looking at the pressure building on Arsenal and especially Arteta to win trophies. Also, we're going to talk banter and celebration police as well. I want to talk a bit about Isak too. Does he need a big move to fulfill his potential, or is Newcastle the right place for him? Plus, United fans turn in on Amorim. Want to have a conversation about that today with the panel. We've got Will joining us later. The big breaking news story before we went live. That's why we were a little bit late reading up about it, to do with referees, sanctions, and Real Madrid. So we've got loads to come. Hit the like and the share button. But before any of that, gentlemen, how are you all? You all good and well?
Yeah, all good.
Feeling a little under the weather, to be fair.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Ryan got me feeling away.
Is that because you've got a cold, or is that because Newcastle dunked on you, bruv?
A little bit of B, I would say, but fair.
Oh, bless you. You sound a bit, you do sound a bit unwell.
Hey, if I'm on mute, you know why. I'm probably coughing.
or crying.
Or crying, yeah. Hey. He's thinking about Isak. It's, oh no, Isak, my bro. Oh.
Are we going to start with Arsenal, Terry?
We don't normally. We will come to Arsenal. We'll let the audience build up, because I know that a lot of them want to speak about that today. I wanted to ask about Isak to begin with, though. Actually, I suppose it's slightly connected to Arsenal because he was fantastic last night. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. It was a wonderful performance. He didn't score, but it was almost one of those games. You know when people say, "Oh, well, other than goals, what else does he do?" Like last night was a prime example of that. He dominated the centre backs, especially Saliba. I've never seen him look so shaky. Both shots he had, the first one was offside. What a wonderful finish. The second one, with his left peg, to place it with that swerve and power is just phenomenal. But the question I've got, does Isak need a move to a quote-unquote big club, or can he fulfill his potential staying at Newcastle? What are we saying?
He's already the best striker in the league and maybe one of the best in the world. I think he's better than Erling Haaland. He does more. He's shown it. Maybe he's not scoring as many goals, but definitely, Terry, he needs to get a move to get to the next level. He doesn't get enough creativity, enough service to get him to the top goal scorer in Europe or the top goal scorer in the Champions League at Newcastle. It's a good step. It's been a big step. He's made a big step forward, and maybe England's a little bit easier to score than it is in Spain, as he's been scoring a lot more goals here than he has over there in Spain. But maybe he's just developed into that player. Hopefully he can make that move to Arsenal, or if he doesn't go to Arsenal, I could see him going to Real Madrid or Barcelona, getting that big move where he's at the top of the top, genuinely.
Do you know what the Isak situation reminds me of? It reminds me of Kane at Spurs. A team that he's the star man, he's the striker. Will Newcastle show the ambition? Does their PSR allow them to go and add quality players? But I think Newcastle are 3 or 4 players away from challenging for a league title. I think you add in a proper ball-playing centre-back, right? Another forward to replace Jacob Murphy. And I don't think they're that far away. That midfield of Tonali, of Bruno, of Joelinton, it's well balanced. They've got good fullback pairing, good centre-back depth, good goalkeeper depth. And when you've got a gunman like Isak, he only needs half a chance. But he's not going to Arsenal in the summer. And if he does, would Arsenal be prepared to spend all of their transfer budget on Isak? I was thinking about this yesterday. I think Arteta's had, 13 transfer windows. He hasn't signed a goal scorer, ever. Havertz isn't really a goal scorer, like a proper goal scorer. Jesus isn't one. Trossard's not one. He'd be the guy that would be, he'd be quote unquote the final piece. But I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I think he's probably the top 5 most valuable players on the planet right now. He's got absolutely everything. That finish, I know it was offside for the first goal, is absolutely ridiculous. And like Terry said, I've not seen Saliba have. I think that's probably his worst game up against the forward in an Arsenal shirt.
That was his worst game I've seen him play in an Arsenal shirt ever.
Do you think that's the tactics from Arteta, or do you think that's just him? Because I think at times, I don't know, your line was so like normally it's a bit further back, and every single time he just sat on Saliba and just tried to spin him, or he moved across, and Saliba was sitting there thinking, I've not dealt with this before. I've not, because when he deals with Haaland tries to get in between Saliba and Gabriel. So they can both kind of, if one can't, the other one will beat him in the air. But the way he was spinning and pulling wide for the first goal, it's like, I've not seen that back four beaten that badly since they've been assembled. Like everyone else, you've pretty much dealt with.
Sometimes you just got to put your hand up and be like, you know what, it was an off day. The player had a bad day, and the striker got the better of him. He was really isolated, and I think it was more due to their tactics and less our tactics, because I don't think they want Saliba isolated with Isak the whole game. You probably want Gabriel, a more physical player on Isak for majority of the game. But hey, he did his job, and I think it's more the brilliance of Isak and the miss. As much as it was a good strike, and he still missed, and I think it's because Saliba's recovery run, he kind of got him a little bit off it, a little bit, and that's why he missed.
It reminded me of Torres versus Vidic all those years ago. Like that wonderful centre-back pairing of Rio and Ferdinand destroyed everyone.
That was one game, though.
Yeah, but that's the first game we've seen Saliba like that.
I do hate that myth, right? It was one game. Actually, there was two. There was an away game as well where he got the better of Vidic. But I read the stat once where I think they played each other 14 times. And in something like 11 of those games, Torres didn't play well or score. But yes, in terms of visually, the remembrance is there. But before we get onto that game, I don't want to get away from the Isak conversation. If he's to leave Newcastle, David, and stay in England, which Premier League club do you think's got the best opportunity to take him?
City or Chelsea, I'd say, just because I think they're the two clubs that would actually put the money down. That's my only reason. I'm not saying that Chelsea or City are better landing spots for him. I'm just saying I don't think Arsenal are willing to put down their whole budget on this one player.
Didn't the Declan Rice show you something before?
No, not for me. Just personally, not. I just don't think. If you do it once, if
Salah goes, you don't think Liverpool could do it?
No.
I mean, if Salah goes, I could see why they would do it, but would I put money on Liverpool doing it? No. Just because you do it once doesn't mean you've got you're going to keep doing it. Chelsea and City have a history of, we are going to spend a lot of money, we're going to pay the wages, and we're just going to get the player in. Arsenal and Liverpool both have situations where they're kind of like, oh, well, instead of 325k, would you take 290k? Actually, no, 295, but we'll give you I'm just saying, I personally think his best landing spot is probably Liverpool, to be honest. But will Liverpool or Arsenal put the money down? I'm not sure. And for Isak, the only reason I'd say he should leave Newcastle is if Newcastle don't show the ambition. That would be my only thing with him, because I don't see why. In terms of, if you could take Arsenal to a league title, you'd be celebrated. If you can take Newcastle to a league title, that you're on a different planet, because they haven't even won a trophy since the 1950s or something. So it depends on if Newcastle back Eddie Howe, or they get in a brand new manager who's going to win them the league, and they invest in that squad. He has absolutely no reason to leave. He's comfortable. He's playing well. He knows his teammates really well. They've already got an elite midfield, and Gordon's there as well. He's performing really well. Really good pairing of fullbacks. As Henry said, a goalkeeper, a centre back, another midfielder probably, and another winger, and then some added depth pieces. I know that's probably 2 or 3 extra transfer windows, but
they're not miles away though.
Guys, what about Real Madrid? Forget about Liverpool, Chelsea. He could go Real Madrid.
I mean, Terry asked me about England, to be fair. So
He could go Real Madrid. I agree with what you said at the end there, Dave. And I was asking about other clubs. I wanted to hear what people have got to say. Part of me really wants him to stay at Newcastle. And listen, there is an argument for everyone. Liverpool, their prestige, their size. I don't think he'll go with City, by the way, because simply Haaland's there and they're just going to sign Mamouche. Liverpool got the prestige. Chelsea would be willing. Well, we say would be willing to pay the money. We're not too sure still. There's still a big question mark over
wages.
The wages. The wage question's still there at Chelsea, but theoretically. And look, I think Arsenal could attract him if they were willing to pay the transfer fee and the wages. I think for him to stay at Newcastle, and part of me would like to see him do it because we all talk about legacy. If he can be part of a team that eventually wins a Premier League with Newcastle or Champions League with Newcastle, there is legendary status that I don't think he can achieve at any other club through doing that. So I think it'd be a very good thing. Someone here said, what about United, Terry? Yeah, I think we've got 3 Opes. Do you know what I mean? No Ope, no, Bob Ope. Do you know what I mean? And I don't fucking know. No. I've said it 3. No fucking Ope. Near impossible. I can't even speak. It's that impossible for us to get him. So no, not Manchester United. But I'd like to see him stay at Newcastle. I think what Newcastle have got to do, and I know their fans are sick and tired of seeing him being linked away. Well, it won't be too long before Newcastle fans' knickers get in a twist. It won't be too long until you're consistently at the top and you're linked with a lot of clubs' best players and their fans get sick and tired of you, but you'll want to talk about it, right? So just get in that mold now because you're part of the big boy group now. It's as simple as that. But I think what Newcastle have got to do is keep Bruno G, is keep Gordon, because it was only the summer where there was talk about Gordon leaving and going to Liverpool. And I think, for instance, if this summer they were to lose Bruno Guimaraes and they lost Anthony Gordon, I'm just using them as examples, they might keep Isak. But if they didn't replace those players with adequate individuals, you might find by the following summer, Isak says, I'm getting to my late 20s now, and we don't look like we're about to go and challenge for a league title. So the PSR will probably be the only thing that can curtail this, because Newcastle fans have got essentially forever. They've got 20, 30, 40 years to make this work. Isak's probably got the next 6 years, 7 years in terms of being in that team that can win those trophies while he's in his pomp. So the only thing I would warn him of is just be careful. You don't want that promise. Like Harry Kane at 22, 23, 24, 25. There was that, Spurs really could go to that next level. Suddenly he hits 30 and they're nowhere near where they want to be. So he's got to be careful. And that's not a dig. I know there's a lot more ambition at Newcastle than there is at Tottenham. The owners want to do a lot more, but PSR is holding them back. It's as simple as straightforward as that. So my gut feeling is he stays this summer. I don't think he'll go. I think they're going to price him out of a move, and I think they're going to try and keep all their stars, especially if they make Champions League football. If they get into the Champions League, I think that, and the reason I don't think they need Champions League to keep all their good players, but with Champions League, they earn more money, they can buy better, and I think they can show the players, look, and if they win the trophy too, they go on now, win this League Cup. I don't think people realize the level of celebrations the League Cup brings to a club like Newcastle. And I mean that with the utmost respect in the world, but he really is an absolute phenomenal player. He really, really is. He's doing fantastically.
I'm worried if he signs a new contract, he's going to be locked up like Kane. That's
what I think is going to happen, Ego.
He's got 3 years left on his current deal, so it'll take him to like 28.
They're already trying to give him a new
break
deal.
the barrier, though.
They're already trying to give him a new deal.
Yeah.
Like, I think with the whole Madrid thing, I think with Vinny Jr., with Mbappe, I think Rodrigo may leave in the next 18 months, 2 years. That's just I can see a similar thing there to wanting to be the main man like Neymar did with Barca. But Madrid will go and get a decent replacement in there. I can maybe Mbappe play on the way. I can't see Isak being the one. I can see him at is, I don't know if you lot have seen today, but Harry Kane has a release clause in his contract, and he's 32 this year.
Is that why Levy took his jet over there the other day?
Yeah.
You know what, Dan? It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me. He'll win the Bundesliga this year, probably. Come back in the summer or the next year at 33, and he'll just try and break Shearer's record at Spurs, and Levy will welcome him back in open arms. And then you're thinking Bayern Munich, if they come in for Isak,
Yeah, I've got a feeling Bayern are going to end up with Gyökeres. I've got a feeling, because I feel like no one's gone for him, and I feel like he'd be the sort of player that they would definitely take. So like, I don't know when.
I think they'll get Osimhen.
Don't take my Yorkie.
Don't take my Yorkie.
I don't know. I'm not sure really. I just feel like that I could see that happening potentially, because Bayern, when they feel like the player's a good fit for them, and they obviously feel like they're the right type of personality for the club, they act pretty quickly. I think like they did. They go all out. They had a chance and they go for him.
They're about to pin. Is it Musiala? They're about to pin him down to a new deal.
Yeah.
Or is that Leverkusen with Wirtz?
Oh, I don't know actually.
One of them apparently.
I thought Wirtz was going Madrid.
A City was sniffing around one of them. But yeah, anyway, yeah. I think by me,
the striker transfer market this summer I find is so interesting because you've got, well, that's a very touchy subject with Arsenal fans, but obviously they're linked to. Listen, their club doesn't learn, does it? And do you know what? Maybe we're blaming the club. Maybe it's the newspapers knowing that it'll get the club blamed. But every time Arsenal lose, they're linked to a striker when they don't score goals. And I understand that all clubs do PR. Every single one of them, including my own. Sometimes I feel, though, that journalists, they hold stuff back and go, if they lose tomorrow and they don't score goals, we're going to release a story. Because it almost winds people up more than anything else now, towards their own clubs. But like, there's obviously they're linked to Šeško and Delap and Isak. Like, that's the thing with Arsenal. I think Arsenal will end up with someone like Šeško. I don't think they'll end up with an Isak or a Gyökeres. Because I think
someone like Buemo or Williams.
Because I think what's going to end up happening is that Man United, I think, will go for Gyökeres, but I think you're absolutely spot on because there's a buyout clause, and I think it's 60 million. Most clubs can afford him, and it's just going to be about who offers him the biggest salary. And I just think the likes of Bayern Munich. I mean, Bayern Munich, especially if Harry Kane wants to leave, like you say, he's on 400 grand a week. That gives him well, fairness, we're freeing a lot up, really. But I don't know if Man United are going to go down the road of bringing in a new player and going, there's 400 grand a week straight away. It's almost like we're trying to stop that approach until we've built a better culture. So, yeah, you're right with that one. But
you might go Harry Kane.
Articles are damage control also. They're PR to try to put fires out before they start.
Who's this? Newcastle, sorry.
No, for Arsenal.
Saying, when Arsenal lose, they get linked to a striker to make them feel like, at least something good's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, but when Arsenal have lost games recently or drawn games that they shouldn't have, 9 times out of 10, I think the issue has been that they failed to take their chances. So I think
100.
it's an easy one to go to. It's like that's been the issue, is that Havertz in some games has scored, but in other games hasn't done enough of a job, or they've been without other players on the pitch that scored them goals. So the easy line to go to is to tempt a striker move.
Also, another thing is the moment they see that the window is wrapped up, everything's done, they finally tell you everything that was happening behind the scenes. We tried to get Šeško. We tried to get Ollie Watkins. Actually, we got offered Ollie Watkins. We turned it down. And is
that the truth then, Agal? Because I was going to say, is that move dead in the water for the summer?
No, Ollie Watkins is not going to happen again. Ollie Watkins was basically, they were going to sell one of Ollie Watkins and Duran this January to get FFP sorted. And Arsenal were offered Ollie Watkins for 60 million. We said, you know what? We value him at 40 million. Let's meet in the middle. And then they basically said, no. And then they walked away. They sold Duran. And when we went back to them for 60 mil, they basically said, we've already sold Duran, so we're keeping Ollie Watkins.
Can I ask a question about this? There's a comment here from No. I want to pronounce it as No, because that's how my friend spells the word Mo, but I'm not too sure. Maybe it's different. But with an M, obviously. He says, damn, Terry even making excuses for the Arsenal board. I'm not making excuses for the Arsenal board. It's not what I don't think that's what I said. And I don't think the panel interpreted it that way. I've obviously stated that all of our clubs will do PR at the right times. I remember meeting the guy that used to work for Spurs' press desk when I worked with Give Me Sport. And he said that when they had really big games or decisive games, they would have pieces of good news ready to release on the Monday or the Tuesday. So I absolutely know that they exist. But what I also think is true is that newspapers will have stories that they write and then they don't release. I know that to be a fact. And I also feel that sometimes what they'll do is when there's a bad result, they'll go, right, there is no coincidence that every single time United have lost under Amorim, a new story about a cut or a new story about a problem at the club is released the very next day. They very rarely release those stories the day after a victory because they won't get the same traction with Man United fans. So you can say I'm making an excuse for the Arsenal board. You're entitled to think that. But I think we have to look at this in a balanced way. And my question was going to be to the panel, do you think clubs should just stop briefing the press and keep fans 100% in the dark? Because I feel now that 80% of the time, whatever they tell us about our respective clubs seems to trigger us more. It's almost like knowing the truth seems to to a point where we don't even know if it's the truth anymore. We're so cynical. Would it be better off with the clubs telling us zero, not briefing the media and keeping it silent, so you don't know whether they made a bid or not? Would you rather know nothing or keep it as it is?
I'd rather know more, to be honest with you, because I always feel like with my club that they don't, the briefing is always through someone else, through a journalist. I don't know whether or not I believe what they say because they've got things wrong and right in the past. I'd rather the club come out directly to the fans and say it how it is, to get everyone at least on the same page of understanding where the club are trying to go. Because I believe right now, if Chelsea come out and said exactly what their belief was and their direction and how they see the club and how they intend it to go, and stated that one side of it is a business, and obviously that's part of football nowadays, and this is why we're doing things, I would probably be able to understand more why they are doing it and be less confused. And I think more honesty can only be a good thing, but I understand why they wouldn't do it. But I do feel a sense of broken trust when they say something and it was obviously a PR move, and then that never materializes.
I'll say I'm more on the other side. I don't want them to come out and say everything, because it's just going to be used against us. Be it if we want a striker and they just go out there and openly say we're looking for this in the market, it could be used against us in the transfer window. When we're looking to address certain areas on the team, it can be used against us in negotiations. And I think certain things need to be kept quiet, certain things need to be kept in the dark. And if you do expose things, sometimes I think it's a smokescreen, and I kind of think it benefits Arsenal. For example, James Maddison, we chased James Maddison to the point where Martin Odegaard's price dropped to 35 million. It ended up benefiting Arsenal, and I do think sometimes briefing the media can come to your advantage and your disadvantage, and sometimes you need to keep your cards at your chest. You can't show everybody your cards.
It works both ways, though, doesn't it? You can get a scenario where if you don't act and you don't hear anything from the club, the narrative in the fan base will be, but for instance, this window just gone right. Arsenal fans are gutted because Arsenal didn't sign a striker. But if you look throughout the 13 transfer windows that Arteta's had, he hasn't signed a goal scorer. If Arsenal come out and said the plan in the next 2 windows is to bring in an elite goal scorer, then everyone would be on board with it. But you're not really hearing anything. So you are to a degree being kept in the dark while also knowing what you need. Like everyone can see right now, if on deadline day you announced, let's say Osimhen, for instance, right? That changes the way every single team looks at you for the remainder of the title race. But you not knowing what the club are doing, you're there like twiddling your thumbs. And then when results don't go your way, it just angles more of a reaction towards the ownership and the manager. Because right now,
there's two different types of communications. So there's communications about ongoing issues; those should be addressed. But addressing transfer issues and like things that your club needs from a manager or anybody at the club, I think can only negatively hurt you, because it will then drive up the price of what you need. The more demand, the more the price, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but then at the same time, ago, you can see what the plan is. Like,
no, I get that. But why, just for transparency in transfers, why hurt yourself? Transparency in players leaving, contract situations, okay. But transparency in what needs we need to address, we don't always have the same needs. The club might address defensive issues when we are saying sign another midfielder. But then when they do address the defensive issues, we then realize why they did it, because they realized the midfield was weak in defending, and addressing the defense, you've now solidified the midfield more because they have a solid base behind them. You don't always have the same idea as the fans. The fans don't always have every idea. They don't always know all the answers. So sometimes telling everyone in the media what you want can negatively impact your signings.
Well, look at it this way, right? Ange said at the beginning of the window, the idea was to bring in a defender and a forward. And that's exactly what we did. We brought in a centre-back in Danso from Austrian centre-back from France, and we brought in Matthias Tell. So our way, at least when we got to the end of the window, I wasn't, well, I still think it's a 4 out of 10. I still think it's a shocking window. But at least I knew what the club's idea was. So it does work both ways.
Yeah, I feel, I don't know about you, Dave. I sort of feel it depends on how you feel towards your club and owners. There's a comment here from Twitter says, Terry, was the PR different in the Sir Alex Ferguson era? I don't think, no, not necessarily, but Man United fans trusted Fergie more. So when he said things like there's no value in the market, what we now know is the Glazers weren't willing to sign off on 35 or 40 million pounds for Aguero. But at the time, we trusted him as a manager, so we didn't question it as much. And you think now maybe we should have done. At the same time, I've always stood on the stance that if Fergie started saying it's all going to crap here, that kind of panic could have sort of destabilized the club sooner. You know, you often hear crisis management people talk like this, that if we as the public were told about the real threats against us, the panic would set in. It would make it much harder to actually control situations. So I understand it from both ends. Man United, for instance, week briefed, they've got these projects, which is Project 21, which is the idea of winning, or how they're going to build the squad and rejuvenate the club to win the 21st title. There's Project 1, which is how to get the ladies team to win their first ever WSL title. And it's all part of a wider project they're calling Project 150, which is about when we hit this was all to happen by the year 2028, which is our 150-year anniversary. And it reads great. What people don't then like is they see the buzzwords, and the buzzwords are there because these are being written by corporate people. And I sort of feel that, and this is a question, if we as fans got to have access to football clubs, the questions I would be asking is the older heads, have words like projects and processes been in place for a long time? And the reason why I think they have is I was watching the 99 documentary, and there was a snippet from 1999 in the summer where United had problems. And one of the players at the time said, it's a bit of a struggle here at the moment, but Fergie's been telling us to trust the process. So Fergie in the summer of 1998 was telling the team to trust the process. So these words and phrases I think have been around a lot longer, but we're somewhat, and I kind of blame Arsenal for this, if I'm being honest, because of I think people disdain for Arsenal and Arteta has led to it. But I'd like to understand how long clubs have spoken in that corporate language behind the scenes. Because if it turns out they've been doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I think we as fans can relax. I think a lot of us are very cynical when, I'm reading this plan, but I haven't seen those improvements in the first 3 months under Amorim, so it must all be bullshit. So then part of me thinks, well, they're better off saying nothing. But if they said nothing, I think the same fans would say, we're blindsided. They don't talk to us. There's no community. Like Man United fans say the Glazers and Ineos are the same. And I understand some of the criticism. I do. But Ineos are giving us a lot of updates and information about what they're doing, which the Glazers never did. And they're still being told they're the same. And I think I feel like the clubs are sometimes in a lose-lose situation. If they say less,
there's just no perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you're going to upset someone because someone's going to either know too much or not enough. And me personally, I miss yellow box Sky Sports breaking news. You sign this player because it was just like, it's actually exciting. When I look at my phone, it's like Fabrizio's told me that this player's going here and he's going there, and it's just like, kind of ruins the fun. There's a bit of fun that's gone missing. Football's just too
there's no atmosphere, is there?
It's just too deadline day.
David, do you remember the Pedro Neto deal in the summer? Like no one knew anything about that, and when it hit, it was actually like a reminiscent feeling of what we used to get before.
Yeah. Whereas
Harry
now
Redknapp rolling up in his Range Rover, window down, gonna sign any players. Yeah, terrific player.
But I see, David, I see this on the transfer video. I say that on the transfer videos we do. Like, I haven't changed the way I do transfer videos in 8 years. When I was the Devil's Bus TV, right through till now, I do them in exactly the same way I always have done. This is the story that a journalist has published. This is what some fans are saying. This is my opinion. What do you think? Why did I structure it that way? Because that is how football fans, and this is the one thing it does upset me. That is how football fans that I surrounded myself with, both at school, at work, in my family home, and people I met all across the country at football. That is how you discuss transfers. Did you see the back of the mirror? Did you see that? Did you see that on Sky yesterday? Did you hear that on TalkSport? Did you see that on Teletext? That's how old I am. Did you see that we're linked to so-and-so? And you would sit and talk about, I don't like him as a player. I love him as a player. Where would he fit in? Where would he go? Modern day football fans are killing that. Well, that's just bullshit. Until he's here, let's not talk about it. And that was the excitement of it.
Actually, Terry, it's not modern day. It's the old school fans. It's the old school fans who are telling me, until he's holding up the shirt, don't talk to me about transfers. Until I see it on Sky Sports, don't talk to me about transfers.
It was never that way.
Old school fans.
Maybe you're right, mate. I look at it and think it's very, very strange. And listen, I've got no beef with any of the journalists because that would just be weird to beef a journalist over transfer stories. But there'll be a good rumor that comes out. And it gets that buzzy feeling that you mentioned. And then someone who's considered a tier one, right? And I always use that phrase because it's a colloquial term that everybody understands. But actually, when you speak to journalists, like for instance, Duncan Castles is one of the most respected journalists amongst journalists. But yet, avid football fan, like Twitter followers, they think he's an absolute bum. So I like the phrase because it doesn't reflect what journalists actually think. But the point is, this is an exciting transfer. Everyone's talking about it. And then Ornstein goes, I don't think that will happen. Everyone goes, oh, that's crap then. And I remember being on holiday as a kid. And now you've all done this. You're in Spain, right? You're on the Sun Lounger. You get the papers because they're 3 days behind when you're in Spain. And you'd read it and you go, oh my God, we're linked to so-and-so. And you're like, I can't wait for the paper to come out tomorrow morning because we might have signed him by then. And it was just, and then you speak about it a lot. It has kind of gone, as they say, the game's gone. Football's gone. Do you know what I mean?
Arsenal used to tweet transfer rumors back in 2012.
You're on mute, by the way, Dan.
Oh, I was just saying, I remember that. Like your official Twitter account used to put it out, didn't it?
It'd be like, we're linked to Roberto Firmino in summer of 2020.
Man United's website used to have its own like tabloid page where you used to put the stories. And I was playing Football Manager back in 2006. I remember because it was when the German World Cup was on. And he was really good on the game. He was a Swedish player, I think it was Swedish, called Christian Wilhelmsson. And he was wicked on this game. And then I was on the Man United website and they put up a news story that we were linked to. And I was like, oh, Dad, this player's he wasn't very good. He was better on the game than in real life. That's how I know as well that a lot of youngsters do the whole like, this player's wicked. They've never seen him. He's just good on a game. Because I was young once too. I was young once as well.
Terry can back me on this. I've been talking about Sesko for years. The reason I found Sesko in the first place was because of Football Manager. But then I didn't just sit there and go like, he's got 20 on Football Manager. He's a baller. No, you've got to go actually watch him. Like you do have to go. I still think he's very impressive.
He played us, David. Do you remember? I think it was the early games in either the Champions League or Europa League for like Salzburg, and he didn't do anything. And like everyone was sort of like, no, who's this kid? Blah blah blah. Yeah, and then obviously he's developed.
He's big striker who kicks ball hard.
We played Genk, didn't we? And like I remember, I had Kevin De Bruyne as like a wonder kid on FIFA. Like, and we played Genk, and I was like to my mate, "Oh, he's quality." Blah blah blah. What am I at that age? Like 18. And then literally a couple of summers later, we signed him. My mate was like, "Oh yeah, you said about him." I'd probably watched him play like 3 times in the Champions League ever before we signed him.
Yeah, the player I remember the most when it comes to this was Mo Salah, because growing up, when he played against us and he was in Basel, I was like, this boy's going far. Then he joined our club. He was terrible. I was like,
Let me ask you guys this. Why do you think there's not more trades in football?
More what?
Trades?
More trades, like one-for-one player transfers.
Because that's heavy in like North American sports, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the reason for that is because it doesn't help with PSR and FFP, because essentially when you sell a player, you can show it on your trading accounts as say 50 million straight in. When you sell a player, it's essentially say it'll come up as 10 million straight out. So that's why even when they're considered trades, they're often, even some of the trades in the past that have happened on the actual trading accounts, they're shown as, and contracts, they're 2 separate transactions because it helps the clubs with their accounting. So that's the reason why you don't see it.
Like Conor Gallagher and João Felix is a trade, like in theory. But it's
even their fees are very close to what they both.
Or you end up like the Mavericks and you get shafted.
But even Amari Kellerman and Maatsen and stuff, David, was obviously like as close to trades as we've seen in football because it was like to benefit each team on PSR. So I actually don't know the exact reason, Agal. I think Terry's probably right about the PSR stuff, but obviously I know that huge one just happened in the NBA. Is that why you're saying it?
Yeah, no, how they got away with that is.
I remember Eto'o and Ibrahimovic when that happened.
Yeah, that's true.
I was like, this is gonna happen more often now, because I'm like, but it never really happened that much.
No, you kind of know as well. There's a lot that sound like it, and then you always, again, you get the journalists that just do the whole, these are separate transactions. So there's probably trades that we think are trades in the past that were never actually trades. It's just two separate transactions, and you'll probably find it's to do with accounting. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, net spend is not real. Which at least that
Talk
debate.
about net spend, Terry. It's the first year Arsenal have been a positive net spend in like 7 years.
But are you a positive? Are you really positive, or are you negative?
Technically, we're 6 million. We're 11 million positive from the summer.
Generally, you're always, again, in the official terms, you're nearly always up rather than down in the short term, because anything you sell comes in straight away and what you buy goes out. The problem is, like with Man United, we have around 200 million a year legit going out towards previous transfers of players, but that's what happens because of amortization. But because we've had so many failures, we've got to keep buying. And this is the thing with Chelsea. Chelsea's plan works if they can get to a summer or two's time where they don't have to spend large amounts of money. If they keep having to spend 200 or 300 million each year, at some point, all those small payments that you amortize in will add up to, hang on, we've got like a 300 million pound a summer bill now on players, on some that might not even be at the club anymore, that might not even be there. And although you can balance it for a period with player sales and your profit and loss, you still have to pay for those players, if that makes sense. So like Anthony at Man United, say we sell him in the summer just for 30 million. We still are probably going to owe 50 odd million pounds over the next 4 years to Ajax for him that we still have to pay. It's still an actual payment that needs to be made. So yes, why is a gal talking with such a sympathy voice? I don't know what that means.
It's just my voice is somewhat gone because I'm sick, so I can't be too loud.
Very MJ.
I wants me to be out here yelling like, "What do you want?"
I care. It's running joke how Arsenal probably go cheap options, Šeško over Gyökeres or Isak, but Šeško's ceiling is so high. Footwork and touch for the height is mad. Also, his ball striking reminds me of Ibrahimovic. There are a lot of people that don't like the idea of Šeško. There are a lot of gooners that think he's an absolute bust, David. Are you still backing him to be a star if he joins Arsenal?
Yes, I back him because he is a big, tall man who kicks the ball really hard on target.
David, I do that, mate, and I ain't made it.
But the thing is, I said the same thing about Haaland. Haaland is a big, strong guy up front, and when he kicks the ball at the net, he kicks it on target in corners. That's really hard to stop, especially if you give him 30 chances in a season within the 6-yard box. We've got someone up front who is a medium-sized block who passes ball at net and the ball doesn't go in. All right. So as long as you I feel like as long as you sign someone who has the ability to hold the ball up, can play like decent football, but is an elite finisher, you'll be all right. And I think if you give Šeško the chances that Havertz has had, you'd be in a much better position than you are now.
Do you know what? Just to add to that, a bit randomly, I saw Raul Jimenez today. He's like really tall. Like not like
he's taller than you.
No, he's not, but he is tall. He's probably like if he's 6'4", I wouldn't be shocked. I was really shocked at how tall he is, but he is like a stick. He's so like slight, 6'6". So he's like very
6'6".
And
yeah,
not the size of a door.
That's what I'm saying.
You guys can't tell the guy's tall from
when he turned up at the studio. I was just like, but honestly, it was like the big friendly giant turned up, massive.
Yeah, but honestly, I was really shocked at Raul Jimenez because he's like obviously done it in the Prem for years now. But I was saying to my brother when we saw him, like his movement must be absolutely elite because he looks like for a physical battle, it wouldn't be someone who would entertain that at all. But it just shows you like these guys must be.
Dan?
Nah, I bet he can jump higher than me because he's
I
an
reckon
athlete, isn't he?
I reckon you could do him to a header.
I'll pull it up.
If it's the last Easter egg in Tesco's, you're getting that over him, aren't you?
But honestly, I was just really shocked at what he looked like as a professional footballer. Like, I don't know. I've seen plenty of professional footballers, but he just surprised me for some reason.
I was just going to say, Dan, Šeško, he doesn't create as much chances as Gyökeres. He doesn't score as much goals as Gyökeres. But what this guy has done in his short career in the Bundesliga is that he's scoring at a ridiculous rate, converting-wise, compared to his shots and his XG. Like almost double his XG in his goals. And I don't know if that will translate when he gets to the Premier League or when he has more game time and he gets more shots. But right now, in his short career, he does look like a really good finisher.
Did you see what Arteta said the other day as well about Gyökeres? They're not sure how he would operate without space. Did you see that? I think someone in a press conference asked him, and he basically said, like, we've looked at him a number of times, or someone said it, and they're just not certain of how he would operate with his space restricted, because obviously in Amorim's system, the way they play, they get a lot more space in behind.
We really limited him when we played against him.
Well,
I'd be intrigued.
That was one of the issues I think that Timo Werner faced when he came to the Prem. There was suddenly a lot less space for him to run into, and I think that's had the sort of the knock-on effect to damage. Even when he went back to Germany, he wasn't the same player, but I think he lost something in himself. I think it was almost like the confidence went in him, and some players are just suited to certain leagues because there is a different sort of approach. There's sometimes more spacing behind. Sometimes, some systems are more defensive and compact. So yeah, it is an interesting one to see how that would turn out. Excuse me. Thank you very much. By the way, viewers, make sure you're hitting the like button. Get it done right now. Loads of you watching, but get the likes up right now, people. Get it smashed. Let's try and get to 1,000 likes whilst we're live on the air, please. So get that smashed right now, people. Thank you. Will, hello, mate.
What's going on, guys?
We're good. We're good.
We're good. Christmas in America.
He's good.
Wait, what? Say it again.
Was completely wrong.
I said I didn't know it was Christmas in America
game.
because of the lights.
Nah, bro. You know what it is? I'm just lazy. So I was like, I like how it looks. I don't want to take it down. So you can just rock with it.
There we go. Another super chat here says, Isak to Arsenal only makes sense for both parties.
If we give them 130 million, yeah.
Yeah.
But how does that make sense for Newcastle, though? They
get top
one of the
four,
best strikers.
They're asking for 130 million.
The only way it makes sense for a Newcastle is if Isak genuinely wants to go, because most clubs don't want to keep a player that wants out because they just don't. They don't work as you could imagine. They wouldn't give 100%. Most people, when they want to leave a business, a company, a team, their heads turn. Companies want you gone. Talk is Newcastle have a huge budget this summer. Listen, you man need it. Like genuinely, if you guys do have a big budget, if you bring in quality and keep hold of these players, you guys can go from strength to strength. You look brilliant, especially with what Pep was talking about the other day. How football is sort of Pep sees football evolving again and going through another change, where having strong, physical, decently technically gifted, but strong, physical, pacey players is almost the way forward. And what I love about this is we've obviously gone through an era where tiki-taka, ballers, high levels of technical brilliance is needed. And it now feels there's a potential shift where it's going to be, you've got to have to be good on the ball. But the Jude Bellinghams are going to be the stars of the world. The sort of Elangas are getting a lot of praise. The players are good technically, but it's more about their physical attributes that are getting them over the line. So, yeah, it's going to be a real interesting one to see how teams progress in the next few years. Pep's even spoke about how they're going to become more direct. It's going to be more 4 or 5 passes to try and work the ball into the box, more counter-attacking football, more transition football. And what I find so comedically ironic about it is that no one wanted that 5 years ago. When Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was trying to play that football, it was laughed at by the kids, by youngsters in football. You're probably going to find it's what everyone's going to ask for because everyone moves with the times and moves with the fashion, and they want
selling Elanga, Terry.
No, not at this particular juncture. I think that Elanga doing very, very well in a team that is afforded a lot more space than we get. If you look at United when we've struggled under Amorim, it's been against teams that have sat back predominantly. And I'm not sure Elanga would be as effective at Forest if they had 11 men. If you look at the Palace game, it was predominantly 11 men behind the ball for large periods of the game, sitting in their final third. Nottingham Forest don't suffer that in the same way Man United do. So he's doing phenomenally well. But I actually think that what the likes of Newcastle, the likes of Nottingham Forest as an example, Bournemouth, Brentford, they've all got a model which for some reason, and I'm only going by what Pep says here, so this isn't my sort of brain doing sort of a big brainstorm and trying to think about this. This is what come from his mouth, that football is evolving again and changing. And I remember having this conversation 4 or 5 years ago when everyone wanted the best attacking fullbacks in a back four. I said, it's great that you want that now, but football will evolve again, and soon nobody's going to be talking. And now, how many people are talking about wanting amazing attacking fullbacks, not wing backs, if you're playing with the back three like Man United or Bayer Leverkusen, but actual fullbacks? Who really cares about ones that can create like Trent anymore? No one's talking about it, because it's just football evolves in that way, and maybe we're about to see it shift again. Which is maybe why I'm not saying you can't do with a controller in the middle of Real Madrid, but I think Real Madrid are onto something with the way they built their team. It feels like football's going to go that way. I know you don't like it, but if more teams go for that model and you've just got the better, more athletic players, it makes sense.
I don't think
if Inter win the Champions League, we might start.
Wow.
If Inter win the Champions League, we might start seeing overlapping centre backs more often.
Yeah, man, Chris Wilder, mate. Chris Wilder invented that shit.
That's Sheffield United's ish. Don't do that.
That's what they're doing in Inter. I'm seeing
counter-attack
centre
football,
backs in the box, in open play.
Yeah, when you
like,
got Bastoni, it's like,
Yeah, that man's a bit.
Well, but I think that's also to do with what Pep was speaking about. That if you saw Southampton's biggest problem this year is they've tried to play like a typical Pep team, but they don't have the facilities, they don't have the players for it, and they're being exposed. I think what a lot of teams are realizing is that there's it's not your word, David, but David uses it in football, so I'm plagiarizing a little bit. There's a finite amount of players, goalkeepers, centre-backs, midfielders, that can play out from the back and seldom get caught out. And teams are conceding too many goals that way. So what you're now seeing is teams evolving and saying, hang on a minute, let's get some technically proficient players that are okay at playing out from the back when we have to. But we want players that can get the ball from defense to attack and a shot within seconds with a few passes and have loads of speed. And loads of people are building squads like that. But I'm just pointing out that 4 or 5 years ago, that was laughed at as a tactic. Yeah. It was considered old-fashioned. And this is why, even the way like the Jose's played football, it will come back into fashion. What he did and made himself so famous doing it will, because it always does. And football's a big cycle, like fashion. It goes around and around. Kids now are dressing like the kids in the 90s again. And eventually the 2000s will come back. And then flares will be back one day. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm interested to see the way this kind of evolves in the
Does anyone remember that with the 2 buttons here and like the... Does anyone remember that? They did it in like loads of colours. Henry, I reckon you had one.
No,
they'll be back soon. They'll be back.
Really close Top Man did. Do you remember these tops that Top Man did? I don't know if this came to America, Will. It was like tight T-shirts with a fashion. So, but they were like, the neck was kind of like a polar neck, but it was big, like a scarf around your neck at the same time. It was like a tight top, and it had like a really weird, and everyone was wearing them. It was.
What year was that?
Oh, this was probably like
78,
between
like 06, 09.
Between sort of 06 and 2010.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were called, but they are. When I look back at it and think, it's the weirdest thing you could ever wear.
I remember the Rihanna T-shirt as well. Does anyone have that? No one remembers the reality shirt. That was Top Man. I reckon Terry just the same era.
He did that in River Island as well.
Was it River Island? That might have been it. Yeah.
I was in primary school. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh my God, you missed out, David, man.
All I remember is Kanye West doing the scarves, the actual like the religious scarves. They're just people would just start wearing them. You see everyone wearing the Saudi Arabian scarves around their neck, just chilling.
I get it. I'll tell you what they used to do a lot when I was younger. They used to do this thing where you'd wear like a tight top, but the front, the thing come right down here. So your whole chest was out while you were out. That was a real, especially if you went gym.
That V-neck was too big.
Yeah. If you went gym,
like Gaz and
if you went gym, that's how you wore it. I've got to find one of these t-shirts.
Jordy Short.
Scotty T, I think his name, wasn't it? Yeah.
What you are talking about right now.
Do you not remember it though, David?
V-neck's got too much.
Wearing it.
I was 5, Dad.
Skinny jeans with like plimp soles and one of those t-shirts.
Not skinny jeans.
Little Wayne used to wear super skinnies. Remember those?
Yeah.
I need to find one of these. I'm even Googling it and I can't find
Honestly, the clobber is like what Simon would wear in the In-Betweeners. That is what it's kind of like, that's what it is. If you think about the movie.
It's funny how it went from super baggy in the late 2000s to early 2010s. It was like super skinny.
See, I actually felt like when I was looking at like my young cousins that were like sort of between like sort of 10 and 15, 16, that period where skinny jeans, smart shirts, that's when I think youngsters look the smartest they've ever looked. Like I look back at pictures of me and my mates when we first started going out in the early 2000s. I don't know why this was fashionable, but if your jeans kind of slightly went under your shoes and got ruffled up, it was like for some reason everybody did it. I now look back and we're like, we used to walk around at night with wet jeans because they'd be underneath your shoes. But it sounds dumb, but it's like if your jeans fit you properly back then, you got looked at like a weirdo, right? And then it went to like, no, then I had to fit you. But the thing with skinny jeans is, again, for my generation, you had to have the right build. You couldn't be too big, but you couldn't be skinny either. You had to have a decent amount of muscle on you to sort of pull it off. But
but like looking back at it though, like skinny jeans is kind of crazy because it's basically like wearing tights. Like
guys were wearing super skinny Levi jeans.
No, bro, like that was it.
I found one.
Like, yeah, I used to have like super skinny jeans. Like I couldn't even put like my phone in like my pocket, bro. Like I had to hold the phone.
Losing blood circulation in your
yeah, bro. Like it was crazy. Like if you look back at pictures from like when you're in high school and stuff, you're like, damn, like I look like an idiot. But that's what
that's what it's called. It's called I found one, right? It's called like a pile neck. Oh my god, right? But it's I'll be see if I can find a better version of the t-shirt because when you see it, you young ones are going to remember exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, that's a great one. Oh no, it's not. I need to see it on someone. Oh, hang on, this might be it. Yeah, this is it.
That looks like something you'd wear in Assassin's Creed.
No, but it's a little bit like that. Let me get this up. Let me just hopefully zoom in and make this a bit bigger because the viewers are going to remember as well if they're young. If they're old, they're not. And these were like
jump off the building into some hay.
These were really fashionable for a period of time.
Is it like a baggy turtleneck?
What he's talking about?
What's that?
Is it like a baggy turtleneck? What is it?
No, it's like tight round the arm.
Yeah, no, it is like a baggy turtleneck. This is what it was like. They were like that. So if I can let me zoom in.
Sorry, what?
Go to the yellow picture, Terry.
So it was like this. The yellow picture is probably better. So you have like a baggy neck like this, and the rest of it was tight.
It's Ezio, isn't it?
But that's I don't know what I didn't know this company was, but everyone was wearing them. And then the worst bit was, I remember there was no jackets that went with them because you had this weird neck that you couldn't put under anything. Yeah, some of the fashions were mad, bro.
That's a bad fit.
Yeah, all things get back again. All things come back into fashion. So that was a football tactic conversation that ended up talking about fucking t-shirts.
Do you remember, just quickly, do you remember the United picture of like Rooney, the Nevilles, and they're all wearing that awful cloth? Yeah.
That was for the Ballon d'Or ceremony.
Yeah.
That was on a night out in Manchester. I'm gonna find night out in Manchester. Let's go and find that but this was how my generation essentially were dressing at that point. Like in the
I don't even think you can go down a pub like that anymore.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. But it was. Remember, these are like millionaires, so it wasn't just like for scruffy people like me. Yeah, this is it here. Look at it. Look at this, man. Look at that. Look at that clobber.
Yeah.
But look, if you look at
that's when you had the jeans, Terry, right? They scraped on the floor. Yeah,
the jeans.
John O'Shea.
Yeah, if you look at the jeans there on if you look at the jeans there, they're all scraping on the floor. Like it was just how it was, man. It's how it was. It's what everyone
Terry,
did.
please Google Top Man T-shirt 2010. Just like, because Will, I want to know if they had these in America. I just want to know. Like, honestly, this was like English heritage.
That must have been 2005, right?
Yes, Agal, probably earlier, maybe.
Because the first thing that reminds me of that is the movie Coach Carter. That's how they dressed.
Funny. This is so good.
Some of the stuff they wear in New York is like people wearing Spider-Man outfits, like dancing, like performing stuff. Like it's just, New York's not a real place. I'm convinced.
I know.
Nah, it's not. It's not. It's just like one big GTA server for
Yeah, that screams in between.
Remember that was amazing. They were like 3 for 12 quid.
That's what they were going out looking like back in them days, bro.
Honestly, my face.
That was like something that like Justin Bieber would have wore back then.
Yeah,
but Justin with a pair of sunglasses as well.
But it was in between. It would always be like the lads who were like not sporty lads, not the cool lads, not the bad boys, but they weren't quite the geeks. It was the in-betweeners. They'd wear it and be like, yeah, I'm cool. And it's like
you was wearing that, Dan, right?
Did you guys have American Apparel?
Yeah, like 2010. Yeah.
Everyone was wearing
American Apparel.
You know what it was? You were at the age where like your mum occasionally would still buy your clobber.
3/4 length jeans, pair of Converse.
She'd go to Top Man and buy you those t-shirts. Used to be free for 12 quid. And like you'd come back with like 3 different colors, and you'd go to like Mufti Day or like the disco like before you're 18.
You call it Mufti Day. My kids call it Mufti Day. We just call it non-uniform day.
Right? Yeah. Well, and your mate would turn, and the whole school was probably turning up in those t-shirts. I'm not even lying.
So you know
Bro,
you're
but yo,
posh.
guys,
Mufti
did you guys have
days, man.
American Apparel here? In the
Oh, we
UK?
did
They-
have it. I think it's shut
Yeah,
down.
like,
Not my
there was
gen.
an American Apparel hoodie phase in like
Yeah.
The hoodie phase we went through, Junction, was super dry. Super dry hoodies were the one. Super dry were the one.
Super dry. Bro, it's like 20 quid for a hoodie.
I tell you what, I didn't ever wear though. So I never did the typical. I'll say what it is. The typical like white chav stuff. So I never did like the Hackett shirts with the number 1 on the back. I never did the what was the sort of the Stone Island stuff. I just used to look at it and be like generally, my mum on Christmas, do you want these t-shirts? Everyone's wearing them. I was like, Mum, that's just white trash, man. I'm not that, bruv. Like, I just think my mum, bruv.
You definitely got the badging, Terry. Come on.
The what?
The badging. You got the Stone Island. You got the badging.
No. Do you know what it was for me, right? I don't know. I never liked the idea of, I always found it because I come from a council estate and we were all chavs, but I didn't want to sort of be seen as a chav. I didn't want people to know what I was by looking at me. Everyone would, like my mates, my brother, right? He used to go out with like Moschino written all over his jeans, Versace on his top. And I'm just like, I'd just rather it be plain and no one knows. I was always that way. So yeah, I didn't like a lot of the designer stuff when I was younger. It just used to say it was designer. I remember going out on a night once with my mates and my friend, and none of it matched. It was all different. He had patterned Prada shoes, Voir or Voy jeans, and then a Moschino top.
Yeah.
And it was all different patterns. He looked like vomit, right? It was just messy. But he's like, yeah, but it's all designer. I mean, mate, but it looks shit. Do you know what I mean? It looked proper shit. Justin Timberlake fit. Now, Justin Timberlake, I thought had a pretty good drip, to be fair, back in the day. Him and Usher. I used to actually like how Pharrell Williams dressed in like the early 2000s. Like Pharrell Williams, when he was in NERD, I like that sort of look. That was pretty cool. I like that. Talk about CR7. He's 40, and thoughts about him saying he's the GOAT, because I agree with him.
He is the GOAT.
He's not.
He's the GOAT.
Speak,
No,
Will.
He's not the GOAT.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
He's
Bro,
not the GOAT.
No. You see, Terry and Will. I get it. I get why you say it. It's fine.
Put your World Cups on the table.
But
okay, yeah. Let me put my team accomplishments on the table. Yes, I didn't know that.
Okay,
Messi was just 1v11 for that final.
Okay. Messi carried an Argentina side to win a World Cup.
Well, I mean, if I was getting penalties in every single game leading up to the final, then maybe I'd make it too. For sure.
Ronaldo is in all about him. Messi makes the team better.
Who cares? Like the question,
but
Ronaldo
comes off the pitch.
But the question wasn't who's more unselfish. The question is who's the GOAT.
Henry, what you just said there though about Ronaldo just isn't true. That is a fallacy that's been created in the media. When you speak to the majority of people that have played with and been around Ronaldo, they all speak about what a team player he is, what a great leader he is, what a brilliant person.
Everyone also says, Terry. Everyone also says
who's everyone that's worked with him? Who's everyone that played with him?
Gareth said this on TNT Sport about 3 times. When Real Madrid used to win a game 2-0 and Ronaldo wasn't involved, he'd sit and sulk in the dressing room.
But why is that?
Because he's not involved.
But that wasn't disrespecting.
The team won, so you should be happy.
Hang on. But that happens all the time. It happens all the time. You can watch a game, pick any game where a player scores, and you will often see the main striker frustrated they didn't score the goal. It's so typical.
Yeah, but like we're talking about Ronaldo here.
Yeah, but
Messi,
you can't have a go at Ronaldo for doing things that's typical in the sport. You can't single him out for something that's typical. That's
but Messi
weird.
has played in the best team ever, Pep's Barca, which beat Ferguson not once but twice. Won a treble, won a World Cup. These are things Ronaldo has
Ronaldo's Real Madrid beat them though.
All right, hold on, wait.
He's also got more GA than Ronaldo. If we're going down stats,
wait, but Henry, Ronaldo is more proven than Messi, right? Like Messi stayed at Barcelona for a majority of his career.
Why would you leave?
Because they're both both for League One, and now he plays in America. Ronaldo,
he plays in Saudi.
Henry, let him speak.
But the Saudi Pro League is a much higher level than the MLS. You kidding me? Come on now, yo. Ronaldo goes to Manchester United, right? Tears it up. Ballon d'Or, like Champions League, whatever. Goes to Real Madrid, tears it up. Goes to Juve, tears it up. Back to Manchester United at like 38. He's still cooking. And then he goes to
and when it comes down to the big game,
playing on a high level.
When it comes down to Man United versus
Ronaldo
Barcelona,
is proven in multiple different leagues. I think Messi, him staying, look, fantastic player, and I'm not saying that you're wrong if you think that he's the GOAT. I'm not trying to come from that POV.
The thing is, though, sorry,
that Barcelona system He was comfortable for a majority of his career.
Henry. But when you do the Barcelona example, you're right. They beat us in a final. But the season before, we beat them in the semi-final. The second time they beat Man United, Ronaldo wasn't at the club.
Okay, but
that's 1-1.
We beat them with 10 men.
92 goals in a calendar year, by the way. That's never, ever going to be beaten.
Brilliant.
How
about Ronaldo's Champions League goal scoring record, Champions League success, top goal scorer, did a 3-peat in the Champions League, the highest standard of club football.
Yeah, okay, that's an argument, but put your World Cup medals on the table.
Hang on, but I would argue. Hang on a minute. But I would argue that standard of football is higher in the Champions League than it is at the World Cup. There's better teams.
Okay, but Ronaldo has played in more World Cups than Messi and hasn't won it.
Okay.
And he scored twice in the final.
So what was your again? I understand the World Cup, and that's a big thing for him, and he deserves credit. I'm not discrediting the World Cup. But what if Ronaldo or Messi was from Northern Ireland, but they were still the same player? Would you use the World Cup as an argument?
No, I wouldn't. No, because you could, like George Best, for instance.
But you would use the Champions League, wouldn't you? And you would use their league form. Yeah. So the international tournaments, I think they hold weight, but we would all throw them out the window if somebody was from a nation that didn't have the quality. And I would say in the last 20 years, Argentina have had better players than Portugal.
Okay, but who's won more trophies?
I'd say Ronaldo.
No. I think Messi's got 3 now, hasn't he? And is in across all competitions across all comps. I don't know the answer to that.
I think
listen, I don't want to run out of time on this because it wasn't part of the plan. We've got a lot of other things we've got to get into in the show. But yeah, you can think that. Of course you can. Listen, I actually look. Messi's amazing and both brilliant. I wouldn't play either of them down. This year, I wanted to ask you guys about this a little bit earlier, but it's ended up coming at this stage of the show. We've still got some Arsenal talk to come about them having to win trophies and a bit of a feature on tonight's games as well. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit of Real Madrid. But quite a lot of Man United fans are turning on Ruben Amorim. Is it right that we ask the manager to adapt to the players and abandon his philosophy and what he's trying to build? Or should Man United fans be patient? I will couple that with, and I'm paraphrasing what he said today, that he has made the decision in terms of pushing for certain players to leave. He has decided to change the clubs, obviously with the backing of the board and the backing of the directors, but he has pushed to change the entire ethos of football, knowing that what we're going through at the moment in terms of results was probably likely to happen, but that in the long term, it's going to make Man United a significantly better football team. So there's a lot of honesty there from Amorim that he was expecting this sort of downturn, and he knows it's hard, but he's asking for people to be patient because it will end up being better. What should Man United fans do? Turn on him or back him? What we saying, panel?
Back him 100%. Like, this is the sort of things that he is saying is what Manchester United have needed for years. And if we are to be right in the prediction that football is going to go the way of being more transition based and counter-attacking football, he will absolutely thrive with the team in that sort of era as well, because we've seen him have a more open game at Sporting, and he obviously has a system that really works in that style of football. I think you have to be patient. You've got a squad of players that clearly haven't been good enough, albeit, yeah, they've won trophies in the country. They haven't been good enough, though, consistency in the league. You have to back him, give him time to build something, because he's got players he's probably got players there. I think me and you were chatting, Terry, a few weeks ago, from like Louis van Gaal's era. Like, what are we doing? You can't have Luke Shaw, right? You can't have players from that far back. Like, give him the reason he's got a chance to be backed is because of what he's already done in his career. That's why, and the way he's speaking, I think there are reasons to back him, because I can see people in the chat saying, what's he shown or what's he done to be backed? This season was a write-off anyway. I don't think it was ever going to be turned around. And if it was turned around, it might have been done by a manager that wouldn't have been positive for Manchester United in the long run.
As long as you believe in what he's doing, you should back him. And I have the exact same thing with Maresca in Chelsea, which is the first 20 games of the season showed me, if we give this guy enough time and the right players, I believe he's got a system that can win us leagues and trophies and so on and so forth. Obviously, United haven't had that, but I feel like that's not his fault, because he actually does not have the players to play his system. I've said this to like my United friends. You've got three centre backs that I think are good. It's a shame that all three of those centre backs can only play one role, which is in the middle. It's just a shame how things have worked out. You don't really have those. You don't have the right type of wing back apart from Patrick Dorgu. You've just brought in. Don't really have the right kind of creating 10. So to build up a brand new system, and you need these things to work, and that you don't have the players. Of course, you're going to have to go through teething problems. But overall, I think it's better for you to go through the teething problems and have the players who will be there in the future know the system 100%, rather than change it for 14 games and then switch it again in the new year.
And back in the manager, David, gives him power as well over the players. Like, there's so many players that have been at Manchester United that Amorim's come into that have had power over the manager, and he's now tried to remove those players, Rashford being one of those. So that's what happens if you keep removing your manager constantly for a team that isn't good enough. Those players will build up a power that can get those managers sacked, but ultimately the playing squad isn't good enough.
I would compare it to growing your hair. There's going to be an ugly phase. The question is,
have you grown yours ago?
Are you going to come out from the other side of the ugly phase, or are you going to say, you know what, I've had enough, and cut off the hair? And that would basically be the manager. And I think Manchester United fans for the longest time have said, you know what, get my money out, let's go to the barbershop, let's fire the manager and get another manager in. But you've never come on the other side of the ugly phase. You keep going back into that same ugly phase. So the question is, are you going to see out an ugly phase for once and come up from the other side and see some progress, or continue to say, you know what, I don't look good, the club doesn't look good, something needs to change, and do the same thing over and over again and get a haircut in this case, which is cutting the manager?
What if you grow it for that long ago, and then by the time you get through the ugly stage, it just still looks ugly? Then what do you do?
Chopped.
At that point, you need maintenance.
But it's
just shave it off. Just go again.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what? Like, I like the analogy, to be fair, and you are right. You could get to the end and go, actually, I look really shit with long hair. But I grew my hair long once because of Beckham, but I grew it long once. But still getting it to that point felt like an achievement. It was like, I got my hair this long. And loads of people, that have grown their hair out however they want it to. So it's like, once you do it, it's like there is an achievement to it, because it is really awkward at times. I get you. Yeah. I view United in this lens, though, right? I'm maybe a little bit more patient, because a lot of what we're doing at the club, I've been asking for. I have got some concerns and worries about the finances. However, like we've seen today, like we've made £300 million loss over the last 3 years. Most of that is paying interest payments, and the Glazers using the club to pay for consultancy fees, which have led to for them to sell the club. And a lot of people think that just any random billionaire owner can come in and write that off. It's not as simple as that. Unless people are willing to pay the Glazers their full asking price to buy them out, and nobody has been prepared to pay that. So I can compartmentalize that as that's a problem, but look at it that way. What else are we doing? I see all these plans that Ineos have got, Project 150, and it reads really good. I am skeptical and I am cynical, because we've been 11 years in a massive downward spiral. But if we just compartmentalize and look at the manager side of things, we have gone from style to style to style to style. We have never allowed a single manager to fully implement their brand of football, build a squad for him and maybe somebody that come in after him and beyond in the future. We've allowed player power to dominate our dressing room for a long time. I am just prepared for it to be successful or unsuccessful. I'm just prepared to go through that. And I'm going to use the word that triggers people. I'm prepared to go through that process. We are not Real Madrid, who have been at the peak of their powers for the best part of 50, 60, 70 years, with a few poor seasons where they can go, right, we've got a great squad. The manager's lost the dressing room. We'll bring in a really good coach. We're back to winning. We've got a really good squad. A couple of players have got old. We'll drop 100 million or 200 million in this era. Bring in quality. We'll go again. If Man United were in that space, I would not be saying, let's give it 2 or 3 years to make it work. But we're not in that space.
But Terry,
let me finish. We're not in that space. So for me, we've tried bringing in a world-class manager and spending big money. We've tried signing superstars. We've gone for a homegrown manager that understands the club. We went for someone like a Ten Hag, but didn't even force him. And we should have forced him into implementing his style. But we let him go, I'll take the easy route, which is adapting to the players, and look where it ended up. So for me, I understand the criticism of Amorim. And I also understand that by sticking with him, There is no guarantee at the end of it we're amazing. But I would just rather try something different to what we've done before instead of, and the irony is a lot of the fans saying get rid of him, hate Ineos and hate the Glazers. So what, you're going to trust the people you hate and think of shit to bring a better replacement in? For me, I'd rather not go through that upheaval. Give him what he needs for a couple of years to build this squad out, and I don't see a genuine better alternative that guarantees better results in the long term, because I feel like we've tried everything else, if I'm being absolutely honest.
Yeah, I think the fact that we just saw Ten Hag do this exact same thing, right? He came in, said, look, I cannot do what I did at Ajax, at Manchester United, and he adapted to the players. We saw how poorly that went, right? Now, the fact that this guy has only been here, 2.5 months, and now people are already talking about how he needs to adapt to the players and he needs to be fired or whatever. I think Ruben Amorim has made a massive mistake coming to Manchester United, especially during the middle of the season, right? I think he should have rejected you guys, stayed at Sporting, and then saw what options there were for him in the summer. Because now, right, he's come in, there's been no managerial bounce, and the pressure keeps mounting on him. And to be honest, I don't see a situation where he's still at the club in 18 months. Because at this rate, you're not going to be in Europe next season. And then that's going to mount even more pressure, because with only one game a week and then only the domestic cups to worry about, not everybody's going to be expecting him to finish in like the top 4 or to at least make a Europa League. And then if that doesn't happen, because if he's not properly backed in the summer, then he's gone. So I think if United fans wanted a manager to just adapt to the players, then what they should have been pushing for was to keep Ruud on an interim until the end of the season. Because you saw when he took over for those few games, he did the exact same tactics that Ten Hag had. Yeah. And you guys did have some minor success in those few games. So you should have just kept Ruud on the interim and then brought Amorim in at the end of the season so that he can get a preseason and signings to be able to go into a full season and implement his tactics.
So on your point, if people aren't prepared to go through the pain of and this is, I think, the problem, people are comparing the rebuild, quote unquote, that City need to Man United, as is a full-scale club rebuild, both culturally, squad-based, and a physical rebuild of training facilities, the stadium. Man City need a rebuild of a few areas of their squad. It's a fundamentally different scenario, and I just don't think people are prepared for that. Equally, though, I agree with a lot of what you said, Will, but it also works the other way. See, for me, Amorim coming in now, implementing the style, working out what players are good enough or not, means to me, as long as he's backed in the summer, and I also agree, if he isn't backed and we don't buy quality for him in the summer, I would not bemoan him walking away and saying, do you know what? I'm not going to risk my reputation further by staying. However, if we do get him 5 players in the summer who are fit for that system, got good speed, good power, good technique, and they improve us, I would actually expect quicker growth next season than if he just joined in the summer and started implementing his system on the 1st of July. So him coming in early now, theoretically, it should, and this is putting pressure on Amorim, as long as he's backed in the summer with the right signings, it should make us better next season than if he joined in the summer, because there's an extra 9 to 10 months of him being at the football club. So I understand what you're saying, but my overview is just simply this. I just feel that Man United fans have got to learn to be patient. We're not, though, and the reason why a lot of United fans aren't patient, I think it's a lot of people treat football clubs nowadays like a fashion accessory. But
you constantly get compared to Madrid. This is, like you said something will come in. Like, Madrid are the only club who, it doesn't matter who comes in, they will always be up there, because, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but the standard does not slip. Florentino Perez says whoever comes in, winning the Champions League is your goal.
Well, but you know what it is, Henry. So
it doesn't slip with Man United.
The Galacticos never won it, though, did they?
Whoa. So, but the reason why it's like that is because there's no sole owner. Like, nobody owns Real Madrid, whereas you guys have the Glazers, and now Ineos are like owning 36%. So, like, they make the call. So people have this misconception that Florentino Perez owns Real Madrid. No, he's just the chairman, isn't he? He's the president. And he has to be elected, right? Now
he can be voted out, yeah.
Now, like the last 15 years, nobody's run against him because it's pointless. So he has a free run right now, but he just got reelected for his last 4 years. Like, this is his last 4 years and he's done. because he's old. But if he was to
What are you gonna
let
do
the
when he's
standards
pulled off,
slip, right? Like if you go on a run where you're not winning trophies, he's out of a job. So like it's very different to where you have
That's
to
what I'm
just hope
saying. Like
that
people
your
shouldn't
owners
compare the two.
are so you have to hope that your owners are ambitious.
Yeah.
But like at
thing is-
Madrid,
yeah.
it's like socios who own 51%, I
That's-
believe. So
But that's part of it, though, Will, and I agree with what you said there.
yeah.
This is the thing. You can have Real Madrid. Man United have never been as successful as Real Madrid in terms of the dominance they have. So therefore, having a Real Madrid standard, I find weird. I find strange to hold a standard that the club has never had. Because I think and the reason why theirs is so much higher is the dominance that Real Madrid and Barcelona have financially over everybody else in Spain is why it's not a comparable situation.
Yeah,
if Man United and Liverpool took the lion's share of the TV and sponsorship money in the Premier League, and we had just that much more money every single year, and essentially our growth and wealth exponentially year in, year out got ahead of all of the other teams in the Premier League, then I would expect Man United to be back to the very top within a season or two. But if suddenly you had 4 or 5 other teams that were as rich or richer and better run than Real Madrid, hang on a minute, and Real Madrid, if teams overtook them financially and were better run than them, and then they had 20 years of mismanagement and 11 years of decline, then there would be it would also take Real Madrid to rebuild a long time as well. And that's the problem with these scenarios of, well, Madrid just sacked their manager and got back to winning, but they weren't in the same scenario that we're in. I find it's like taking someone who's a gym nut and they're in good condition and they have 2 months off and get a little pudgy belly versus somebody that's not been in the gym for a decade, is 10 stone overweight. Yes, they're both unfit, but they are not starting from the same position. And this is the problem with all those conversations. I find them, it's like a basic bitch analysis, I call it. It's very basic. It's just think like Madrid, act like Madrid, you'll be like Madrid. That's just bullshit. I can think I'm Michael Jordan all I want, but I ain't playing in the fucking NBA.
Terry, hold on, wait. But Terry, but it's not. It's really not. It's just about, again, your ownership. So, for example, yes, in terms of the history, right? You're not going to have the history that Real Madrid have. But in terms of wanting to operate like them, for example, like Man City.
Hang on, sorry.
Wait, hold on, wait. But like, for example, Man City, I fully believe that that's a club that can have Real Madrid standards because their owner wants those kind of standards.
Okay.
Your owners do not. That's great.
Okay, so I can accept that our owners don't think like that. Let's just say they don't. Cool. So they don't think like that. I can push to get them out. I've done what I can. Boycotted. I think everyone should boycott. Force them out. Let's say we do have the ambition. So this is the point. Ineos are talking like they've got that ambition. So let's just sit in their world for a moment and pretend they have the ambition.
Yeah.
Man City didn't get to this level in one season of having owners with that ambition. It took them years to build a squad, build a team, build an ethos, build up the credibility, bring in the manager. The point is, you cannot go from where we sit today, which is a squad that we would say, is 10th, 9th, 8th best in the league, a team that hasn't challenged for a league title in 10 years, a squad that is full of players from multiple managers and styles, with a fan base that is all at war with one another. You can't go from that to just going, I want to be like Real Madrid and performing like them. I'm talking about getting the end result. You can have the ambition, I agree, but the idea that having the ambition means you can click your fingers to get to that point is going to take time. And I think this is where football fans have this is where the argument is. Everybody wants it today. We all want the same thing, but some people want to cut out the steps that are absolutely required at this point. So for me, I'm just prepared to give Amorim a little bit more time before I'll criticize things he does, but I just don't see the point of calling for him to be sacked. If we just bring a new manager in, we're going to go back to, it's going to be the same. It isn't really going to change. And we know this because we've sacked 6 managers and nothing's really got better.
You've been doing it for a decade.
Exactly. So I just find it to be a bit of a crazy point. There's some super chats here that says, I'm with Terry. We need patience. We will suffer in terms of Premier League points and standings, but I can see what Amorim is doing on the pitch. We need 2 to 3 years. And look, there has to be progression within all of that time period. I absolutely agree. Because, Terry, we're not built for this. We say we are, but we're not. We will back Ruben until he does the opposite to what we want. Then the same thing. This is true. There are a lot of people that were fine with Amorim until... So there's a lot of ideology in this too. So I've seen a lot of people that love Rashford suddenly turn on the manager because they're not getting... But I thought Rashford would be better. It's like, I'm just not bothered about any individual in that way. I agree. I don't care about Chelsea about Chelsea panel lads, but I wanted
I
Amorim.
don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry, about Chelsea panel lads, but I wanted Amorim before Moresca. Our squad would have fit the 3-4-2-1 like good
old Tuchel days.
Like good old Tuchel days. He's a good coach, in my opinion.
David, you're on mute.
Could see it working. However, I think if we brought Amorim in, I think a certain midfielder wouldn't have been able to play or would have struggled to play.
Who? Palmer.
Certain...
No.
Who?
No.
Oh, Enzo, you mean?
Whoa, no.
Enzo. I don't know what you mean. That's why I'm asking. I didn't get it. I didn't catch on.
I didn't know what you were doing with that, David.
Wait,
no, I think the thing is, if we had played Enzo, we would have had to play in like as like a inverted winger almost. Like,
or you could just sell him.
I think Amorim.
I think he's. I have to preface this every time I say this. Think he's a really good player. Just don't think he belongs in a double pivot. This is my opinion.
Yeah, just get rid of him in the summer. 60 million, right?
Real Madrid.
No, but the problem is, Will. The problem is that I like him. Will, I'm not stupid. I know he's good. So like, you're not.
Yeah, but he's not the right fit for you. So I think Chelsea.
No. But that's if I had Amorim. I don't have
Barcelona or something.
I think Amorim as a character would have been too strong for Chelsea's current sporting directors as well. I think he's too likely to push back and say and speak his mind. And I think he's done that at United, but that's probably what United needed. And I think right now, if you're a manager that was speaking their mind at Chelsea, you probably would be going against the grain.
You need an Ange.
Not a chance.
No.
That's what you need.
Viewers, let us know what you think in relation to this. Should United fans be patient? Should they be kicking up a fuss? Let us know what you think and feel. It's all different opinions, and they're all welcome here as long as they are about football and respectful.
Terry, I have a question for you just really quickly.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Do you think that there is a possibility where Amorim gets sacked this season?
My gut says no. I think he talks about like he has to win to get results, and I think that's him being a little bit humble. I have a feeling that Wilcock and Barada understand that this isn't about we're changing the club's entire ethos of football, how we play, how we train, how we operate. The fact that if you just go back and most of you probably haven't done this because you're not United fans. If you go back and watch his first couple of interviews on MU, like on the Man United website, on the YouTube channel, you can watch it on. Amorim literally says what's happening now is going to happen. He said we're going to have loads of games where we get absolutely found out and get destroyed.
He said it's going to be like a real struggle, didn't he?
Yeah, he said it'll be a struggle for a good sort of 6 months to a year, but after that, it's going to be amazing. And look, he has to deliver that amazing at the end of it. I feel as though I would be very disappointed. I want to get to the conclusion. Does that make sense? I don't care if the conclusion's bad. I want to get to the end of the. I suppose if this is at school and it's science, I want to get to the end of the experiment. I want to know for sure whether it was going to work or not. And that's probably been one of my biggest bugbears in the last 11 years. We've never really let a manager completely build a squad in their image to see what it looked like. And we're talking about football changing. I feel like if we carried on building in the way that Ollie did in his first 2 years with decent technicians, power and pace, we might be sitting in reviewed very differently today in 2025 because that seems to be something that's coming back. And it's almost a case of just let someone build something instead of, we're going to go in this direction now, or we're going to change or pull back. So I'd be very disappointed if they sacked him at the end of the season because we finished 10th in the league. He's literally been very honest and public by saying it's going to take a good 12 months until it clicks into gear. So I'd rather give him the time because at the end of the day, we're 11 years down this horrible dark path. I mean, what else we got to fucking lose? I don't see it's not like we could, there's no manager in the world that makes us title challenges next season. So yeah. I don't see the point of just sacking him personally. To be fair, David, I think Enzo doesn't fit us still, even though he's been better. I think another CDM type with Caicedo would be better to help cover ground, is what the case says here.
As I say, the best Chelsea midfield is when all three of them are playing. When all three play, balance, perfect. It all works. When one of them goes, it's like, wow. So that's why we put in Amagidu. I don't know, just that is his name.
This here says Isak is overrated. Really, he's not a bagsman. He's a profile and ability is 40% of Eto'o, but Isak will never reach 30 to 30 plus goals like Eto'o.
We're comparing him to one of the best strikers of the generation. Like
40% of Eto'o is still pretty good.
Yeah, 40% of Eto'o is probably better than any number 9 right now.
I mean, to test that theory, he's 24 years old now, isn't he? 25, sorry. This season, he's on,
17, I think, Premier League goals.
I mean, honestly, just a genuine question. Did Eto'o ever score 30 to 30 plus league goals?
I don't know.
I think he had a very good season with Barca when they won the treble, and then he had a very good season with Inter when they won the treble.
I'm not trying to discredit Samuel Eto'o. I just don't. That's a lot of league goals, and most players don't score that many. Let's have a little look here. So the most amount of he got 30 league goals once in 2008, 2009. He got 25 and 26 for Barcelona in 04, 05, and 05, 06.
And he's also doing in a team with
hang on.
stacked.
Yeah, okay, hang on. And that's the only time he'd done it. It's the only time. So those 3 times were massive. And at Inter, he got 21 goals. So only 3 times in his career did he get over 20 league goals, which I'm not slagging off, but I mean, it's a rarity. But 19 goals he's on so far this season. If he continues on this current rate, like Isak, he's probably going to end the season on 25 to 30 goals in all competitions. Do I think he could score more in an even better team? Yeah, he's not Eto'o. He's not Eto'o, no doubt about it. But how many times did Eto'o score? This is actual total goals in all comps. Samuel Eto'o scored over 30 goals in all comps in a single season.
Oh, quite a few seasons, I would have said.
Three times. Right. He got 34 in 05, 06. He got 36 in 08, 09. And he got 37 in 2010, 2011. Amazing. Most players don't score over 30 goals. I'm saying I'm not going to say that he is that Isak's overrated because he can't score 30 plus goals in all comps more than Samuel Eto'o did. I just don't think that constitutes as overrated when Eto'o is universally recognized as the greatest African player of all time, one of the greatest strikers in European football history. For Isak to be called overrated because he's not as good as Eto'o, I'm not too sure about that. I think that's a little bit harsh. I don't know about you guys. I think that's a little bit.
Nah, it's very harsh. I think that Isak's a fantastic striker, and I think like everybody talks about like Arsenal or Manchester, like all these other teams. I think he ends up at Barcelona. Like that's just what I think.
What Lewandowski replacement?
Yeah. And I know people can say, "Oh, well, Barca don't have the money." They always somehow find the money. I can definitely see him at Barca whenever he does leave Newcastle. I don't think he stays in the Prem. Yeah. To be honest.
You know who he's incredibly close to in terms of numbers-wise, age, where he's at in his career, is Andy Cole, Terry. Like, he's literally the same age at Newcastle, same amount of goals.
And look, he got 25 goals last year for Newcastle in 40 appearances. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that if he goes to a better team, I think he could hit on occasion. I think he could get close to 30 goals a season in all comps for a few years. Like, he ain't going to do it 5, 6, 7 times, in my opinion. But equally, he's not up against as good a defenders as Eto'o. Like, I think defenders were generally better in Eto'o's era, so he might be able to hit those goals. I wouldn't say he's better than Eto'o if he did either. Ronan,
the fitness. Yeah, his fitness. I think he could definitely hit like 30 goals a couple of times throughout his career for sure.
Yeah, he's worked on his game because naturally he wasn't a goal scorer either. He definitely used to spend way too much time being less efficient at Dortmund and Sociedad. At Newcastle, you can see in the past season and a half, he's worked on putting himself in the right positions. There's a huge difference.
Yeah,
I mean, his numbers have drastically improved.
Yeah, he's very, very good. He's very, very good. Ronan says, who will win a fight out of Will or Henry?
Hey, why are you two fighting all of a sudden?
What we do?
I know Henry. I know Henry used to do boxing when he was younger.
Are you similar condition to the chair, or have you got a bit more about
definitely in better? But Will is definitely in better shape than Henry. I've been around him. Henry has got that skinny, fat look. Do you know what I mean? Really skinny but fat at the same time. No, you do. You look like you ever like cooked a marshmallow on a stick and it melts down the stick. That's Henry's body, like that.
What's rude? Hey, I wouldn't have that. That's crazy.
The thing is, I'm nearly 40. I've got a bit of a dad bod, but I'm 40. This man's in his mid-20s. You know what I'm saying?
I did lose a fight to a chair, so I've probably got that.
He is built like Simon. Will from the Inbetweeners. No, Simon from the Inbetweeners. That's what he's built like. Just
right. Anyway,
yeah. The last time I was in London, a guy in I can't read that word.
Cavarici
jeans and a very tight V-neck shirt threatened to stab me. Yeah. Mate, yeah, there's some crazy people in this country, mate. There's some absolute natters. I want to ask a question we spoke about Arsenal a little bit earlier. Obviously, they went out the Carabao Cup last night, rightfully criticised. How much pressure do you now think there is upon Arsenal and Arteta to win? Externally versus internally?
Is that to the panel or to just to...
No.
External.
Well, no, I don't know if I didn't hear if you said like to David. I'll go first.
Oh, sorry,
I think the pressure from the fan base now is starting to mount. Getting knocked out of 2 cups in a space of a month is massively damaging. I don't think they'll win the league. There's Martinelli injury just kind of adds to that. I don't think they're good enough to win the Champions League. You know, everyone's somehow still writing off Real Madrid. You know, they will beat City and they will be in the next round. And in a knockout game, I'd bet my life on them to beat someone. So you think that's going to be, 4 or 5 years of only 1 FA Cup? The question is, can he get over the line? You know, I understand they need a striker. They need a left winger. Let's say they go out and do, I don't know, they do 100 million on Isak or 150 million on Isak and another 50 million on Nico Williams. That's close to $1 billion the Cronkies have spent. I don't think they're prepared to go and spend 150, 200 million in the summer. So Arsenal are at a crossroads. Do they carry on with this project or do they bring someone else in? I think the summer he will still be there, but I think a lot of Arsenal fans now are on the Arteta out. You know, going out to Manchester United is the worst result of the season. That is a disgrace. 10 men, I no offense, Terry, but a team playing with 10 men for 60 minutes, any team in the Premier League playing against 10 men for 60 minutes, missing that many chances. But as I said at the beginning
that's not Arsenal's first time this season, though, Henry. They've struggled against 10 men.
Yeah, and this is what I said to Miguel earlier. They've had 13 transfer windows and they have not signed the goal scorer.
Maybe they get Harry Kane, you know. What's his transfer?
He's not. Let's not even start that. He's not.
Can you imagine the meltdown?
Let's park that for a second.
But for just a question on that, I don't think it will happen either. But for the Tottenham meltdowns, I think we'd all like to just see that.
There
just
is that
to watch
photo
the
of him in the kit, isn't there, with the
red. Harry Kane is a bona fide Arsenal fan. It's fact.
I saw that he has a release clause, Henry.
He looks better in red as well.
It's not a fact.
Wait,
he's not. Half his family are season ticket holders.
What's that got to do with anything?
Imagine the meltdown. This would be amazing.
Look at him. His brother's a Spurs fan. His dad's a Spurs fan.
67 million, by the way. That's
Henry,
doable.
Anyway, can we just get back onto the fucking Arteta?
Henry,
No.
And
Henry, 64 million is Harry Kane's buyout cost right now at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, but
that's a lot more cheaper than 150 M's.
Yeah, but Harry Kane's going to be what? What's that? Is that next summer or this summer?
I think it's this summer.
So he's going to be 32.
Yeah, what does everyone say about Harry Kane? He don't even need pace.
He don't need space. He don't need pace, man.
He could play till he's 36, Henry.
He's not going.
Imagine 36-year-old
unbelievable. That would win Arsenal the league.
Fly Emirates.
Yeah.
Harry Kane to Arsenal. Henry, let me tell you something right now. I will be one of the first viewers on whatever live stream or video that you drop. If in that hypothetical situation, that I will be there, Henry.
It's not happening anyway. But in terms of
it might. Can you imagine?
I'd say if Kane joined Arsenal this summer, he's equally as hated.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care about you.
Yeah, Sol Campbell did it.
No way.
He
No way.
doesn't care. He was voice noting a
can't
fan
be
the other day
hating
about
the
Matthews
song.
Tell going to
No,
Spurs.
Henry. To be fair, at least Harry Kane put like a buffer in there before he went to Arsenal.
You know he's building a house.
It's still them, David. It's
He's
still
building a house, isn't he? By the golf course, like near Virginia Water. So that's not a bad drive round to Arsenal's training ground.
So you
Yeah,
guys trying
you're
to
not
make
helping
Henry
the situation.
It's not
crash
bad,
out on
mate.
his
It's
dream.
probably done in about half hour on a good day.
Listen, he's not going there. Back to Arteta. If I can't believe I even bit of that. Back to Arteta. I think if he goes out there and does another 150 million this summer on a striker and a left winger, and then doesn't get over the line, I think they need to get someone else.
90 million on a left wing is a decent budget as well.
Well, if they shut up, you know. If they, I think they'll sign. The guy was 10 years old. What are we doing, man?
Oh, to be fair, that's
10.
2 summers in a row in it. The Dreamcast and the O2 one.
And wait,
one after another.
in that summer, in that picture on the left, I think he's at the parade, Henry.
He's at the parade.
Red hair too. Red hair.
He was an invincible.
He dyed.
He dyed his hair to celebrate.
He dyed his hair red.
winning.
Harry Kane is a gooner. It is a bona fide.
He's not
fact.
a goon. What are we
It's
doing, man?
All right.
fact.
So Henry, explain these pictures. Like, what was going on here? Go ahead. Tell me.
Will, in the picture on the right, he's 8 years old. Right.
Okay.
So you're telling me he goes to Tottenham's academy, right? Whose entire family supports Spurs, stays at Tottenham, gives that much loyalty for that long, not winning anything, right? And he's not a Spurs fan.
The thing is, though,
That
Henry,
loyal to the club.
Henry, I'll give you an
Anything,
example.
year
Henry,
after
I'll give
year
you an
after
example,
year.
though. I'll give you an example, though, Henry, right? They say in life, you never forget your first love. I know your missus is about to marry you, but the torch she still holds for her first boyfriend is so strong. It will never, ever go away. And this is the same. The thing is that you don't know that me and Henry, that's our connection. I used to date his ex-missus. No, joking. It's not true. It's not true, right?
You want to put a disclaimer out? That's not true. 'Cause
That is not true. That is what we
call.
call in the normal word a joke. But he is an Arsenal fan. I don't care that his family is Spurs fans, because in London that don't mean so much anymore, right? It doesn't matter that he played for you. This young man went to the Invincible parade and dyed his hair red. He is
Henry,
a
Terry was a
gooner.
kid.
Wait,
So
wait. So Henry, if you're saying that his family are all Tottenham fans, then who the hell took him to the parade to celebrate Arsenal's trophy? He didn't drive there himself,
man. Like what are we? Okay, he joined Tottenham at 11 years of age and left when he was what?
Hang on.
So what year? So what year did he join Tottenham?
And he saw you win one Carabao Cup.
He joined Tottenham at 11, went through the youth rankings, then to the academy. They made his debut and was loyal that many years, not winning anything. When Man City put 150 million down, he stayed there.
Let's be real, Henry. He wasn't loyal in that moment. He wasn't loyal in that moment. He down tools.
He wasn't, but he was loyal a lot.
He down tools. He wanted to move.
He stayed.
He wanted to move.
There is absolutely zero chance he joins Arsenal.
Wait, so Henry, for the last trophy that Tottenham won, that was 2008, right?
Yeah, 2008, yeah.
Okay.
Well, until March, yeah, 2008.
All right. So what was he at Tottenham during that time?
Yeah, he would have been.
All right. So then where's his picture celebrating Tottenham's
No, I don't think
trophy?
he wasn't. Was he?
No, he was, Henry. He was.
Yeah.
He was.
So then where's that picture of him celebrating that win?
There's no picture of him dyeing his hair white.
I'm trying to figure it out. So when did? So
hang on. You are crashing here. You remember that Kathy Newman interview?
I'm trying.
Hang on. I've got more pictures for you. Hang on. I've got more pictures. So the one on the left shows that he was with friends and family. The one on the right is him older at a game.
That would have been about looking at that kit. That's about 2008.
He might have left Tottenham practice to attend this match. Probably had to leave a little bit early, Henry.
So he's at the parade with friends and family. He's at a game when he's older. He was wearing a top at 8 years old. He is a gooner.
Yeah, there's something wrong with his camera, I think, guys. Anyway, he's not going there. No chance. That'd be like Lamine Yamal joining Real Madrid. It's not happening.
Is that
Figo did it, mate? Figo did it.
Figo did it. Figo.
Luis Figo did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like
Perez is very convincing. You feel me?
But anyway, back to Arteta. now that I've bit like 500 times. I think the online fan base is very different to the match going fan base. I think the match going fans are very much Arteta in, and I think the online presence is getting bigger and bigger, that there is a lot more Arteta out. And I think it's a question now. Like, he's had what, 740 odd million pounds. He's nearly 6 years down the line, and it makes it look even worse. I know Arne Slot has come into a very, very good team, but no one thought they'd be this good. I think they're favourites for all 4 competitions. The first trophy he gets an opportunity at, he could win in the League Cup. That just makes Arteta look a little bit worse. Like, this should have been your year. This should have been the year you went out and the 2 transfer windows weren't good enough. Yeah, that's not Arteta's fault. But at the same time, you've had 14 transfer windows and you've not signed a goal scorer. You haven't signed. If you go back for Marquinhos, Trossard, Havertz, you know, Wenger was signing and Emery was signing Lacazette and Aubameyang in back-to-back years. He doesn't want a goal scorer, I think. Like that, I can't see how you'd have that many transfer windows and wouldn't go out there and bring someone in.
By the way, that Terence Tibbs comment is unbelievable. Henry, right?
Right, yeah, I've had that my entire fucking life, man.
Yeah,
like,
you're literally a Spurs fan, but he's named after the 2 greatest Arsenal strikers of all time. Henry Wright.
Man, I was on a roll there.
Yeah,
anyway,
you are right.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say, you are right in terms of the externally, fans are getting annoyed, and it's beautiful to watch. I can't lie. I knew they weren't going to win yesterday, but they all still crashed out, and it was great, and it was a lovely watch. And it is starting to like mount on top of him. Internally, though, I'm very sure he's hitting his targets, so I don't even think he's like close to being under threat. I honestly think at an absolute minimum, he's still got 18 months. So for him, it's kind of like, even if this year doesn't go to plan and we don't win anything, it's the kind of thing of like, we go again.
What targets do you think he has to fall below, David? Like, I know you said internally, I kind of agree with you. I don't think there's nearly as much pressure from inside the club on him. But what targets do you think he has to be meeting there?
I think now he's at a stage where he's like, he's got to be. No, I don't think Arsenal are you guys. I think now he's got to be competing. I think now they've put in enough money where it's like, if he was to finish 3rd, but he was 15 points off, I think he'd be under pressure. Even though he's got qualification, Champions League, I don't think that would be good enough anymore.
No,
I would like to think that Arsenal, being the big club that they are, would not accept their manager just tailing off and finishing in the top 4. No, if he was Spurs manager, calm, do your thing.
Wait, but I think that there's a lot of pressure on Arteta internally because, again, this was supposed to be their year, right? It was always, once Man City falls off, they're going to be the team that, you know, goes on and wins it. And now that Arne Slot in his first season, and yeah, I know that he has like Mo Salah, Van Dijk, whatever, but honestly, the context doesn't matter. This should have been Arsenal's year to win it. So I fully believe that internally, they gave this guy over 700 million to spend, and he only has an FA Cup with Unai Emery's squad to show for it. Owners do not, and I don't think billionaires don't like losing money. And I don't think that they're seeing their return on the investment with this manager. Now, I think externally, fan-wise, I agree again. I disagree again. I don't think there's that much pressure on him from the fans. I think, yes, there's certain fans who are putting pressure, but I feel like there's always going to be excuses, right? For example, like Igal, who was just on. I swear I remember him saying that if Arne Slot wins the league, he'll be Arteta out, right? And then now, if we ask him the same question tomorrow, then it'll be, oh, well, there was injuries and this and that. I feel like there's always going to be excuses from the fans on why there's shortcomings instead of just saying, yo, maybe this guy is not good enough. So again, I think there's some fans who do put the pressure, but I think a majority of the fans are not going to put that pressure because there's some kind of infatuation with this manager. And I generally do believe that a lot of Arsenal fans do not think anybody else can come in right now and do a better job. But I think in terms of his bosses, there has to be pressure because after this summer, it'll be close to $1 billion spent and there's nothing to show for it. So there has to be some pressure internally. Like there's has to. But
no, but there's always now, when I say he's not under pressure in terms of there's always pressure being at a big club. I don't think it's the pressure of, oh, you're close to getting sacked. I think it's you're at a big club, you should be performing. They're two very different kinds of pressure. Arteta's not walking into his job stressed every day thinking, oh, what do I do to sort out this problem? He's walking into his job thinking, oh, how do I make us from being a very good team into a great team that wins the league? That's my point on the internally bit. Externally, I think the thing is with fans, especially the small group is always the loudest, especially when they're disagreeing.
My little boy just posted it from my office door. He colored me in a picture of a rabbit. So
it's a very nice picture.
It's very good in the lines.
Have you guys seen the lineups?
Yeah, I've seen them. Your new player Danto starts. Tell's on the bench. I haven't seen Liverpool's. They gone strong.
No, Alisson.
No, Alisson, but it's still more than capable of
Is
scoring.
Mohamed Salah starting the game?
Yes, and so is Gakpo.
Yeah, Henry, it was lovely knowing you. Carabao Cup, I'm sure you would have loved to win it. It is done.
Tottenham wins tonight, by the way. Tottenham advanced tonight. Just saying.
You reckon?
Yes.
Really?
I told you guys, I predict Tottenham to win this trophy. Now, I said it'd be a North London Derby final. I'm clearly wrong, but I still believe that Tottenham will do.
So you think we can get past Liverpool tonight?
I just have a feeling. Look,
and so making your debut at Anfield, by the way. With one training session,
look,
stinks.
You are 100% the underdog, and Liverpool should 100% go out there and absolutely batter you. I just have a feeling. That's all. It's just a hunch. That's all.
I'd love you to be right. I would love Spurs to make the final. My cousin and my dad, it'd be like a nice little battle. My cousin Joe's a Newcastle fan. My dad's obviously Spurs, but I also don't want Liverpool. Liverpool going out is also good because it means they can't do the quad. It just ends the quad. That can't happen. We can all relax a little bit. But what is this here? Just purely Arsenal hate talking is what I think it's just Assad here. He says earlier, the bosses aren't backing him getting a striker. The return in the Champions League football, they are happy. They don't care about winning. When you hear Arsenal fans say this, and I'm trying to play host here rather than give my opinion in what I say because people get a bit confused with that. But if they're not, if the Cronkies are now like, right, we're a Champions League team, we're just not going to do a Declan Rice again. We're not going to go and sign the best. We're not going to keep paying high wages. What should Arteta do? Should he walk or look for another job and kind of out this, or do you think he should quit?
Yeah, no, I don't think he should quit. No manager's going to quit.
Wait, but Dan, if I'm making the Champions League, and now you don't want to spend money, you're talking about we're not going to.
We don't. So are you suggesting? Right. So Will, are you suggesting that like Arteta's saying he wants a striker? Are you suggesting now that they feel like they've backed him enough and they're not spending more money? Or are you suggesting that you think they still will buy him a striker?
I'm just going off of what Terry said was if they're thinking, look, we're just happy to be in the Champions League. We're not going to really spend too much. Like, there's probably not going to be another 100 million signing. I would leave because then what am I doing here then? The point of being in the Champions League is that I should be getting some of the best players. So if I'm not going to be doing that, you guys are basically just leaving me out to dry. So I would quit.
Like, say you're in Arteta's position and he turns around to the board and the sporting directors, whoever's there right now, I don't know, and says, I need something else. And they say, but we've given you 800 million. How on earth could you need something else? Where does he stand then? Because a lot of other managers don't even get the luxury of having that much money to spend. And they do a better job. And if I was him,
then I would pull a Conte or a Mourinho. I would come out and say, yo, they're not backing me. Like, I've asked for players. I didn't get these players.
Right.
Like, then I
is that not the better thing to do and then get sacked off the back of it? So as you get sacked, you look like you went down trying. Because if you just give up, another club might look at you and think, we don't want him. He's going to be an issue potentially. Like, I think it would damage Arteta if he was to walk away more than it would if everyone could see that Arsenal just stopped spending now when everyone can see they still need to spend again because some of their recruitment hasn't been perfect. That people would feel a little bit more sympathy for Arteta.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like when managers are transparent. So, like, because then it's now not up to speculation. So, like, imagine, like, if Arteta came out and he said, yo, I asked for a certain profile of players. The club didn't do that. Now we're not sitting here saying, oh, well, Arteta doesn't want a goal scorer. He has. So like now it's all up to speculation. But I feel like if that's how the club feel in terms of they don't really want to splash the cash anymore because they've already given him so much money, then if I was Arteta, I would come out and say it. And then if they sack you, they sack you, bro. It's not really like you're losing anything. You're not winning anything anyways. So why not just be transparent then and let the fans know so that you're not the one who's getting the blame?
I hear that logic. Abraham says Arsenal are London, Liverpool with no Champions League. KSE is their FSG. Have no problem giving hundreds of millions for basketball, but not 20 millions for what's an OW?
I don't know.
Ollie Watkins.
Ollie Watkins, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but do you know what it is with basketball? Is I'm not sure factually, but I would have said basketball teams' revenues are far higher than Premier League teams.
Yeah. So the thing is, the NBA.
More.
Yeah, the NBA play. So out of all sports, basketball, they pay like the average salary is the highest in all sports because it's only like 13 people on a team.
80 games a season as well.
But also with the NBA as well, right? This is where I think actually going back to your trade question a bit earlier. Or Gal, he's not here, but I think because the NBA is a league and an organization that then franchises out its teams, the NBA are in control of the franchises in terms of what they're able to spend.
Is it true for the NBA the same as it is for baseball? That say, because I know in baseball, obviously the New York Yankees sell more baseball caps around the world, I think, than any other baseball cap ever. But the money they generate is evenly spread and given out to all the other Major League Baseball teams. It's very, I remember, or maybe a percentage of it is. I remember reading somewhere along the lines that no matter how big the Bulls get and how much money they made from selling Chicago Bulls jerseys, the money is fairly evenly distributed amongst teams. And the only reason I say that is because I don't understand the ins and outs of American sports enough. And I'm not defending KSE or FSG or the Glazers, but I think sometimes we're a little bit naive to how the money operates. You got to remember, no one gets relegated either. So there's always there's a guarantee of money every single year, where in the Prem, you could pump £200 million in and get relegated, and that money's gone. And I'm not defending what the American owners do, but I find it hard to compare the sports when I don't know enough about the financial goings on of a particular sport, if that makes sense.
With salary caps, like, you know how much you have to spend, so you often don't exceed the amount that you'd have to. Whereas in football, that 20, basically, if you're KS the Cronkies, and that 20 mil for Ollie Watkins takes you 20 mil over what you thought you were going to spend anyway, you probably don't want to do that. Whereas, like, whether it's Jimmy Butler or it's Dame Lillard, it doesn't matter who it is. You can only spend so much anyway. So
you signed for the Warriors.
He didn't sign. He was traded. This
is the thing is as well, right? Is they have far less power when they're traded than in football.
Yeah, well, I've watched again. I watched obviously Moneyball, and I remember watching that, and I also remember watching the great NFL movie called Draft Day. And there's just times where the GM just says you're off. Someone's going to call this person. They'll get it all sorted. And it's not like in England, players can go, I ain't leaving. And they have to stay. Generally, they can say, I ain't leaving, and they can stay.
Well, football used to be like that, because I've heard stories where they, like back in like the era when managers had more control, they would be like, you're not going to play, so you might as well leave. And there's definitely players that have come out and said, like, I walked into training one day,
but the Bosman rule didn't used to exist.
That's exactly
since the Bosman rule came in and players can leave for free. It's
gave the players a bit of power, didn't it?
And every year that you get, so this is the thing. Some Newcastle fans go, he ain't leaving. My owners won't allow it. There is an element of truth to that. But if Isak says, I won't be signing a new deal and I don't want to be here, Newcastle will look at it and go, well, every year, between every season that ends now without a new deal, he becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, which means and we want to replace him with like for like. So therefore, we have to sell him as early as possible to raise as much money as possible.
But it's similar in American sports as well. Because because like a player could run down his contract and then demand a trade, which means that now you can't get as much back for him as you would.
So you can't get as good a player for him as you're saying.
A draft pick, because they normally trade like draft picks. Right?
Question I don't know, because I only really watch games when I get near I don't watch the NFL religiously.
The Super Bowl's in a few days, Terry.
No, I've got me and my friends got an area booked at a club. We're going out. We're going out for the night. I'll be there for that. But Saquon Barkley has ended up at the Philadelphia Eagles, right?
Don't make me cry, Terry.
Listen. I met him once when I was at Penn State years back. I met him and his pregnant girlfriend. And was like, oh, I did, and I had no fucking idea who he was. Like, and they're like, he's just left because he just left.
He's the guy.
He was like, because he didn't complete college. He didn't complete college. He got drafted early, and everyone was like, this is the guy. And I was like, great. I said hello to him. It's very brief. Like, I'm not pretending to be his friend. It was a very brief moment because I was out there doing some work, and it was a very surreal. I remember I just randomly mentioned it like a year later to David. I was like, hey, I met a player that just got drafted, I think, called
Saquon Barkley is crazy.
But it was one of those moments where I weren't even sort of like, I went to Saquon Barkley and was like, no way. I was like, like,
he's amazing.
He's great. But like, how did he end up trading? Is that like
no? So here's what happened. So one, I'm a New York Giants fan. That's so basically what Saquon Barkley did is the equivalent of what Sol Campbell did. He went from Tottenham to Arsenal.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't trade him to Philly. We just didn't sign him to a new deal, right? We couldn't agree terms. So in Americans, well, it's the same thing like in football. He was a free agent, which means he was free to talk to any club.
Anyone he wanted. And the
Philadelphia Eagles gave him the best offer. So he went. Amazing jersey. But so he went and got the best deal from Philadelphia,
and
which
he
is like the equivalent of Tottenham Arsenal.
Okay, but now he looks like he's about to win because I think the Eagles are going to win it. And
by the way, Will, don't you dare do that. Saquon Barkley is not Sol Campbell. Your GM, right? This is where American sports is funny because they give access to everything.
Lord David, you see it?
So, no. I'm just saying.
Giants right there. I'll cry right here on stream, bro. Will
very completely left out this bit of the story. So they have this thing called Hard Knocks in America. Like, you can watch it in the UK as well. And they did it in the off season, and it was on the Giants. Now, the Giants GM and owner were both sat in a room, and they said, "Oh, do we give Saquon 14 mil because that's what he's asking?" And they said, "No, we're only willing to go to 12 mil. Fine, we'll let him go. We need an O lineman because we need to protect our quarterback. So we're going to let Saquon walk. He won't go to the Giants. Why would he do that? It's not like no one else is going to pay him 14 mil. First day of free agency rolls around. Eagles, bang, 14 mil.
Wait. But in like world football terms, right? So like for world football terms, you know how certain players or certain positions get a higher wage than others. So for example, center back's not going to make as much as like a striker, right? It's similar in American football, right? So the position that he plays, for example, they're not as highly paid as, and they're not as viewed as valuable as other positions. So,
okay.
Again, like that's why
I get that. Yeah, it's just
watch the Super Bowl though, people.
It was great because I when he joined Philly, I was like, Philly's my team, and I picked them because of the Mark Wahlberg film.
Are they your team?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So when I saw the news that he joined, I was like, oh, this is great because he's like one of the only players that I know of. Is in terms of like, but it was on those random days. Like, it didn't even feel like I met him. I was like, oh, hey, you're right, you're good. It was like literally like that, moved on. And then it turns out he's this absolute like starlet that everybody was like gushing over. I was like, oh,
your entire team's amazing. Like,
yeah, now Philly look good at the moment.
Yeah,
again,
they're going to lose to Mr. Mahomes.
Did they play each other a few years ago? Was there a Super Bowl
3 in a row?
Yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah. 2 years ago.
And arguably, people say Jalen Hurts outplayed Mahomes in that Super Bowl, but ultimately it didn't matter.
Yeah.
See, I don't ever pretend to know more than I do on. I don't. When I watched an NFL game, I can tell who's winning, but I won't be able to watch it and analyze it and be like, oh, this team was better. I can't analyze it. I can just kind of watch it. I'm honestly at that point with it. So I just don't watch it enough, really. I will probably watch about 3 or 4 games a year because of time, but no, I do enjoy it, especially Super Bowl with the boys.
It's a great sport.
It's a very good sport. I wish I had more time to watch more of it. I just don't.
And the games, they come on like late for you, right?
Because it's late and then I've got work early and I just don't
NFL's not too bad because like there'll be some Sunday evening games which are on at quite like a chilled out time.
You get 6 o'clock.
So like for us,
Yeah.
They all start at Sunday at 1 p.m., which would be 6 p.m. for you. Yeah, so that's not too bad.
You know, there are some that are earlier, but then that's like I'm live after like Super Sunday then, and then I do stuff and then I clip it, and then I've got to go up in the morning and take the kids to school. So it's like got to go to bed. I'm not. If I was a young,
NFL is a great second screen sport though. Like I always will have it up on the side or something.
No, but that's how it is for me. It's a second string thing. It's a second screen thing for me. I'm often not watching it, but I got my sports. I do the boxing, UFC, football. They're the ones I'm avid about. A few super chats here before the end. First one says Shaquan is a Liverpool fan, by the way. Big up. But when I was in Penn State, the amount of people whose dogs were called Shaquan or Barkley was unbelievable. Everyone just. And it's weird because I remember I was in this bar and there's this woman that had a dog. She has a golden Labrador, and she's like, "Come on, Barkley." And obviously by then I'd met him. I said, "Is that name?" I said, I laughed, right? Because she's like 50. I went, "Did you name him after Shaquan Barkley?" She goes, "Yeah, everyone did. He's just our hero. We love him." And that was my first experience as a Brit of how famous high school and college football players are. And I'm just like, because no one that goes to university in England or college or plays for their football team or their whatever team at school or at college in England is famous in any capacity. This had a whole
Did you see how big the college stadium was for Penn State?
Yeah,
I the football stadium, 90,000 seater. It's crazy.
Have you watched Johnny Football on Netflix?
I went and watched the game. I watched the game. It's the big one for them. It's Ohio versus Penn State, where they all.
No way you went to Ohio State versus Penn State.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh
we all just in white. I've still got my white Penn State top somewhere, and it was.
I'm not gonna lie. I got an amazing experience.
Yeah, mate, it was just
that's crazy.
It was just phenomenal, and because again, you see it on TV and movies. I didn't realize how big. And then when I went to LA one evening. Went and watched like a high school game. There's 7,000 people there. I'm like,
it's serious.
This is amazing. It was just out of this world. And I couldn't believe it. The high school kids are like leaving and everyone wants photos and autographs. And I'm like, when I play for my school football team, one person had to watch. I was like, this is amazing. It was absolutely phenomenal, man. It really, really was. Arteta has made Arsenal make an extra 350 million a year. That's a great point. Money spent since Arteta came in is Chelsea has at 1.8 bill, United 993 million, City 973 million, Spurs 936 million. I will say that as much as people call out what Arsenal spent, that's
euros, though, Terry.
Yeah, but it's the same. Their money's in euros as well. The 790 million. It's still like they've all spent that amount of money. Arsenal won't spend to win. Why fire Mick? It's also a good point. Newcastle are a great team, and Isak fits their system perfectly. He is not scoring a lot of goals because he's scoring a lot of goals because of Gordon and Murphy. Yeah, they complement each other very, very well, that front three at the moment, and they look a lot better team without Amorim. And that's not a dig at him. Boys, always a pleasure to sit and speak football with you all. I love it. To my viewers, super chatters, everyone who subscribes, a big thank you to each and every single one of you. Check your emails as well if you've signed up recently to stocks, because some of the prizes that we've been giving away, we've emailed some of the winners. Some of you and I've left comments. Some of you have reached out to us. But go and check your emails because I don't actually know who the people are because stocks have to email you out because it's data protection. They can't send us your details, which is actually right because you become one of their users. But go and check your emails. Let us know if that's come through. Until next time. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. We'll see you after the game. Liverpool versus Spurs kicks off in half an hour. Peace.